It's undeniable at this point that Concord has flopped. It has flopped commercially. It has flopped with its actual engagement numbers. A game like this, a 5v5 hero shooter, expecting to survive when it can't even garner enough players during its closed beta, open beta, as well as its launch weeks, is a huge lesson to be learned both for the studio as well as PlayStation, and that's what I want to discuss today. I have an upload sort of just walking through why the game flopped. I break down sort of a category of why I think the packaging matters, and I sort of talk about the trailers and how they marketed it and how the general reception was immediately not great. But then I move on and I make an argument about why the gameplay didn't matter, which is an interesting way to phrase it. So be sure to check out that video, because many people would say, but the gameplay was good. And I would say, yeah, and the gameplay doesn't matter. Now, in that video, I advocate for a solution at the end. It might be a familiar solution to you that I've kind of trumpeted and banged on for a while, and it's one of early access. But I'd be curious to discuss this with the audience, just thinking through moving forward, what is PlayStation going to do about their live service efforts? Are they going to consider a different path, given that you can't keep launching titles like this and then either have them go nowhere or not get the best results? Now, there was an interview with Jim Ryan where he did indicate that they knew all 10 of these games at the time he was doing an interview about their aspirations to have 10 live service games out by 2026. Now, obviously, I think those plans have probably changed and have been scaled back quite a bit. But in that interview, he did indicate that they were well aware that not all 10 of these games would be hits. So it's almost like they assumed some wouldn't do so well or that some would not be as successful. But I don't think in their grand scheme or their game plan here, they were planning on having like literal failures, just abysmal flops that go nowhere, because Concord is that. Concord is now a game that is one of, I think, the worst launches we've probably seen for a major title. I'm sure there's been worse launches of like, AA titles or indie titles that just nobody really knows about, but this was, sort of put out there during State of Plays. It was put out there during a showcase. They really had a lot of people that were looking into this. PlayStation was putting, character trailers on their YouTube channel and their Twitter account. And so they were obviously trying to get people to pay attention to this game, and nobody really did. So we could obviously, go back and forth about why we think it failed. Was the game too woke, or was it really just a game that was out of time? Was it a game that was sort of from a bygone era? And this obviously, I think, is connected to larger dialogue that I have been putting out there about arena shooters and how many of them I think are just going to face significant challenges. So make sure every day here on Reforge Gaming, whenever I put up that upload, to watch that first. That way you can know what I think. And now it's time to hear what you think. So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everybody. Make sure you're going through that daily ritual. Smash that like button, and that way we can get started with the conversation, because I want to know what you guys think, and you guys are already off to a strong start. We did sort of basically take yesterday off. Labor Day, I was up late Sunday night, and then we just I wanted to talk about Concord flopping, and I didn't want to just do it as a live stream. I wanted to have an upload where I kind of thoughtfully walked through all the things. So I kind of wanted to hit this from both spectrums of not just talking about it, but also having that upload. And we're going to need to bump the daily goal line. Hanshot first, and so did you. Kat renewing her VIP and taking us to 5. And then Ginger renewing. He says 3 years strong. 3 years of memberships from my man Ginger Prime. And then Raven, the first gifted member of the day. Thank you, Raven. Joker Quinn renews 15 months in the greatest community on YouTube. Guys, when you are at a Member Plus or a VIP, it counts toward the goal. So thank you to everybody who has upgrade. And English O is going to do the same thing, taking us to 9 members already for the week. 3 years supporting this, 3 years of supporting this grifter on this channel, and all I've got is a new badge. 9 years in total. Here's to more. Thank you so much, English O. I appreciate you guys that have been upgrading. We're at like 533 on the Member Plus and above count, so keep upgrading to Member Plus. It's $1 more than the standard membership, and you do get into extra content, and then we do celebrate with IRL streams and other milestones as well. Game was long dead before the dev said that. Mind you, he said that was a PUBG dev. Oh, you guys are going back and forth about something. I mean, from where I sit, I think the lesson to be learned here really is, you can't sit on a game like this for however long. Like they're saying it was in development for 8 years, whatever that means. I mean, so that means they started working on this in 2016. Dude with the drum set with 21 months, thank you so much. Going the way of the dodo is the case of Concord. Like, as far as like the original release of Overwatch, what was its original release date? 2016. Okay, so this game's been in development for 8 years. So I could envision an environment where that's somewhat true. That like 8 years ago they said, "Hey, that Overwatch game looks pretty cool. What if we made a game like that?" I don't think it's been in production, like active production, for 8 years. But they could have scoped this out on a napkin, dry erase board, sketched out a piece of paper. You know, that could have been, I think, a way that this has been, you know, in development for 8 years. I would probably say it's only been in active production for maybe 4 or 5, but given the company's size, maybe a little bit longer. But the point is I don't think you can keep sitting on a game like this for 5, 6, 7 years and then say, "Oh yeah, here's the game." You know, because you're taking an enormous risk. I think this is something that PlayStation has to consider. You know, this heist game, this Fair Games game that they announced a trailer for. You know, is it gonna fall prey to a similar fate of like, we've played games like this before, right? There are modes. There are games like Payday. There are games like Grand Theft Auto. There are games where you can already kind of play with your buddies and do this sort of thing. Like, will Payday be? I'm sorry. Will Fair Games be even unique enough to garner any support or any interest? Because if you're just going to continue to try to make games that are like, "Oh hey, here's our version of a heist game. Here's our version of an arena hero shooter," I think you're really setting yourself up to be quickly dismissed, as Concord was. And if you wait that long to release it, by the time it even comes out, people are going to be like, why'd you even make this? Like, it'll be bewildering, I think, to people who are either fans of the genre or fans of PvP games in general. Do you think any game developer can have the foresight to see that following a trend like live service can be very high risk? This is why I've just continued to say you need to utilize early access. As I said in my video, I want you to imagine right now you're sitting down to build a game that's going to release in 4 to 5 years, okay? Do you have any idea what the gaming trends are going to be in 2029? Do you know what kind of games people are going to love, hate, that they're tired of? What if your game is really, really similar to another game that comes out before you, and then you look like an idiot, and it looks like you copied, which is, you know, largely impossible. You know, like when Battleborn came out and had a ton of similarities to what Overwatch did, and Overwatch's beta kind of took the wind out of the sails of any kind of launch Battleborn was going to have. I mean, there was no way to claim that the two games copied each other. It was like similar ideas, similar inspiration points, probably from games like Team Fortress, and then the games come to market and it's like, oh wow, these games are very similar. That's another risk that you're taking. It's like, what if between now and 2029 there's 2 or 3 games that crop up that are similar to yours, and then it's going to seem like, oh, you're entering a saturated market. Why'd you make this? They're not concerned about the risk, says Eugene. If just 1 out of the 5 pays off, it's worth it. Right. And here's my thought on that. If PlayStation is just throwing stuff at the wall, hoping for one to stick, you know, as Jim Ryan seemed to indicate, like, they don't expect all of these to be a success. My pushback is, why would you not set things up to ensure maximum success of every, like, maximum opportunity for success for every single title? Baldur's Gate 3 is a perfect example, says Dave, of how early access can help really shape a game and make it a hit. I mean, look at Diablo 4. Diablo 4 is starting to turn things around. Why? They launched and they got all this feedback, and now all the feedback's being implemented. They could have saved themselves an awful lot of trouble if the game would have launched in early access a couple of years prior to that, instead of you basically launched the game and now you're treating it like it's in early access. Like, well, we'll implement all the player feedback. You could have avoided all of this. Have you seen Deadlock? It looks like it's going to be the next big PvP game. I saw the clip of Shroud saying that he thinks it's going to be huge. You know, I think he's obviously got an insight on these things. He's played a lot of these games before. So it does seem to be a game that will have not only the PvP crowd, but if you have that sort of confidence in Valve and what they can make, I think that, you know, the game could go far. The problem with these online shooters is that there is only so much room at the top. Gamers focus on 5 online shooters at most. It's hard to get your foot in there. Well, and I kind of break that down in the video. I say, listen, a lot of us have just aged out. So if you're trying to appeal to people with like an arena shooter, it's like, okay, oh, I was there when arena shooters were born in Doom, Quake 2, Quake 3, Unreal Tournament, okay? And then you end up in the sort of the evolution of that. You get something like Call of Duty, where Call of Duty is not a traditional arena shooter, but it's the same structure to a certain degree. It's a smaller map. It's 2 teams of 6. You've got game modes like domination, capture the flag, things like this. And so when that happens, I think you start to get all these people that grow accustomed to that. Well, if you're trying to appeal to me, I was there when all those iterations and the birth and the evolution of arena shooters took place. You know, Team Fortress 2, I remember playing that. If you're trying to appeal to me, a lot of people like me have just aged out. It's like, dude, I'm in my 40s. I'm not really interested in playing this young man's game where it's like a meat grinder. It's like you run around the corner, you get a kill, you run around a corner, and then you die. And then do it again, 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 do it again. So you're either like annoyed because it feels so familiar, or you're like, I'm just not good enough anymore, right? I'm older, I'm slower. You know, these young kids that play all day, every day. So my generation's kind of aging out. And if we haven't aged out, a lot of my generation is enjoying battle royales. They're playing Fortnite, Apex Legends, Warzone, PUBG. So you're trying to make a game that isn't going to appeal in large numbers, I don't think, to those of us that were there at the birth of arena shooters. Okay, what about the next generation? What about the younger generation? You know, my nephews. They have all culturally bonded in the gaming world. They've culturally bonded and developed memes and statements and attitudes and ideas all around Fortnite and Apex and Warzone. Largely Fortnite, but then Apex and Warzone are also there. So it's like, I don't think arena shooters have legs. I just don't think that they do. Their format doesn't work for live service anyway. Who really wants to come back in a month just like, yeah, I can't wait to play more arena shooter. I can't wait to run around a small map and get in gun engagements every 10 seconds. It's like it creates, I think, an exhaustion point much faster than something that's more drawn out like a battle royale. So if you're going to do an arena shooter and you want it to be popular, you almost have to build it with a competitive mindset. It's got to be like a Valorant. It's got to be like a Rainbow Six Siege. It's got to be like something to where it can sort of attach itself to a pro scene or an esports scene in order to make it. Because if you can't do that, then I think you're just going to become just another hero shooter that can't maintain a player base. X-Defiant struggling with this. Concord didn't even get out the door. I think Splitgate 2 is going to struggle with this. It's like, it's not that your game is bad. It's that it doesn't have any legs. It can't go the distance. In 2 months, do you really want to come back? Why? There's so many other games to play. There's so many other games coming out. There's so much to distract yourself with. Arena shooters might as well be stuffed into the boomer shooter category since they don't seem to gel with today's gamer. Ginger says there's a factor that battle royales tend to be a better viewing experience for streamers. Like when I focus on the game, I don't really talk with chat. I think high-level competitive games can do well. I think Valorant has proved that, but Valorant is structured in a way where there's just this natural competitive mindset about the game and the players and the teams, and that's one of the reasons I think Valorant was able to do what it did. It's also built by Riot, and I think they had a better understanding of how to build a game than the team at Firewalk. I think Firewalk knows how to build good shooting mechanics and good abilities, but Valorant has an advantage that they essentially iterated on something that was so old at that point, there wasn't some other, saturation point in the market to make it really hard on Valorant. Valorant was basically like, we're going to be Overwatch meets CSGO, and I think those two things made for a very unique cocktail. And again, it appealed to more competitive-minded players. Then you get the esports scene going, and then you get the tournaments going, and then that drives the interest and the intrigue. I think it's going to be really hard for games like X-Defiant or Splitgate 2, or in this case, Concord completely and utterly flopped because it just didn't bring anything new or compelling. So it's just another arena shooter with some heroes and some abilities. So why would I play this beyond a weekend with my buddies? Why would I come back next week and next month? What's the compelling reason? I think that's an enormous challenge for anybody building an arena shooter right now. It's like, I don't know how you make that compelling and winsome long term. Even battle royales are going to deal with that, right? They shake up the map, they shake up the meta, they throw in crazy items, they throw in crazy events. I think that's something to consider if you're building a live service game right now. I think the PvP environment's the most challenging of all, and I think the arena shooter is the most challenging of the PvP environments. Because I think there could still be some games that come out and iterate on Battle Royale and end up doing okay. I mean that. I know Battle Royale is really saturated, and you're competing with the likes of some of the biggest titles, in gaming. But I think there could be some more iteration there. But I think it's going to be really hard to iterate within the arena shooter. The win rates for Deadlock Heroes has been revealed, and in the last 11 days, one character has been played over 2.5 million times. Yeah, I think I saw a tweet about it, that there's one player in particular folks are asking for a nerf. Yeah, Star Trucker's out. Can't wait. Splitgate will probably be overrun with safe space gamers and their complaints, ruining it before it has a chance. They will test the game, complain that the movement's hard to track, and the game will suffer. You've also got to consider that Call of Duty Black Ops 6 is landing with a completely reinvented movement system that people are really enjoying. Like, I told you guys that Omni movement, I was like, I don't know, dude. I think that's going to be a really, really big game changer. I think highly competitive players are going to love it. I think people are going to enjoy watching, playing. I think the Omni movement is like just what the doctor ordered to make Call of Duty's arena version of PvP actually really fun. So you're also competing with that. You're not just competing with the Battle Royales. You're competing with the biggest game in the market with respect to being a shooter. You're competing with Call of Duty, and you're competing with a brand new sort of iteration of their arena style, with the movement, being a completely new experience for a lot of people. Well, basically, a completely new experience for Call of Duty. I do feel if you're going to step into the space, you need to bring it. Like, you got to pull out all the stops. You can't slow roll the updates. I think you would find right now, if you tried to do an arena shooter in this market, and you even took my advice and you went into early access, I still think you're going to find the exact same problems. I think you're going to find the exact same problems. I think you're going to get 2 months in, and people are going to be like, yeah, I'm good. I've kind of been there, done that. That movement skill creep, that player base. That movement is going to skill creep the player base like we've never seen before. Maybe. I think Call of Duty came out and went on full defense mode about skill-based matchmaking, because skill-based matchmaking is about to become very rigid, because they're going to have to protect the people who move like a normal player and the people who move like Doctor Strange. Like, I think you're going to have to differentiate between the two, and that's why they came out and basically defended skill-based matchmaking. And I think that alone, even if casuals start leaving, I don't think they will, because I think skill-based matchmaking will protect them. But even if casuals start leaving Call of Duty's arena style and they just go back to Warzone or Fortnite or Apex or whatever, that doesn't really change the fact that a game like Concord is just not going to be able to get a foothold in the market. You're not going to be able to. I just don't think with just, oh yeah, it's an arena and it's 6v6 or 5v5, whether you do heroes or whether you do, pre-made loadouts, or whether you do, whatever you do, it's like, it doesn't matter. Nobody wants to play that right now, at least not for a long period of time. Like, everybody came to me when we were having this conversation a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, guys, Concord's going to flop. I said, I don't think it's going to do well. I don't think anybody wants to play it. Now, I actually thought more people were going to play it at launch than they did. I was like, yeah, I think more people will check it out than they did during the beta. I think maybe there's a stigma around betas. I was completely and utterly wrong. A significant amount of less people played once the game came out, which is basically a game's DOA at that point. It's like if your beta didn't get great results and then the launch of your game gets even worse results, dude, just put a fork in it. It's done. It's cooked. It's over. And I remember when we were having that debate and that discussion about Concord, and I told people, I said, listen, I said, the arena shooter is, I think it's being put out to pasture by the sheer nature of the culture surrounding these games. The nature of these games is now interwoven with streaming. It's interwoven with esports. It's interwoven with battle royale. There's so many factors that will affect the way a person views a game like this. And I was like, I just don't think arena shooters have what it takes. Even if you just strip it down to its base parts. And the problem with an arena shooter is you're repeating the same actions too close together for it to be compelling and enjoyable. The actions are just too close together. It's like I spawn, I run, I take a corner, choke point, door, window, whatever, and I get a kill or two, and then I die. And then I do it again. And so if you picture it like a graph, every time you repeat an action, you have to put a dot on the graph. It's going to be very quick. It's going to be like, 10 seconds dot, 5 seconds dot, 4 seconds dot, 10 seconds dot, do. Now imagine that over a 2-hour play session, how often you're repeating the same action. Well, then the games blend together. Whether you win or whether you lose, the experience blends together. It's like it all starts to kind of feel the same, especially if skill-based matchmaking is making it to where you're going from the lobbies that I get where like I kill people who can't shoot straight, and then I'm in a lobby of people who are getting 3 and 4 KDs. So I'm getting whiplashed back and forth between those matches. So it's like I stomp, I get stomped. I stomp, I get stomped. And then the actual experience in the games is super repetitious. Do you think I'm going to come back in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, or 2 months and be like, yeah, I want to do that more? Sign me up for more of that. Psychologically, what you're doing is you're just creating calluses on a person's brain. They're like, I don't like this. It's not stimulating anymore. It's always the same thing, really, really close together. And this is where battle royales, I think, started to really win people over. They started to win people over by saying, you can, with your own volitional choice, you can say, I would like to hot drop and get in a bunch of fights right now. And you can hot drop for an hour. And maybe sometimes it goes really, really well. And maybe other times it goes very, very poorly, right? Concord is slow and floaty. It doesn't matter. My point still stands. Whether or not it's the incredibly fast, quick twitch TTK of Call of Duty, or it's slower pace like Concord or like a Halo where the TTK, the time to kill, is a little bit longer, it doesn't matter. The time between what you're doing is so close together, and if you contrast that to where I was just going with Battle Royale, you can choose to hot drop. You can choose to stretch and hide, and that's got its own feeling of intensity. I remember one of the first times I played and won a PUBG match, dude, my heart was pounding out of my chest. I was streaming, I stretch dropped, I avoided fights the entire time. I was hiding out in the building, I ran out, I shot at the guy as the circle was closing. He had to run into the circle, and the circle killed him, and it was my first chicken dinner. I remember it. I remember what it looked like, and at this point, that was 3 or 4 years ago. No, that was 5 or 6 years ago. That was a long time ago, and I still remember that match. Do you want to know why? I got to kind of create my own on-the-fly ad hoc story of I'm going to run and hide and stretch, and I'm going to play like that guy who just doesn't want to draw attention to himself, because that's largely a great way to play a game like PUBG where you're going to die really fast. Like, time to kill is very quick in a game like PUBG, and it's really, really easy to get picked off, right? You start to get in one fight, and some guy in a window is just going to peek out and be like, oh, bam, bam, and then you're dead. So that's how I played PUBG. And it was incredibly intense. And I remember, playing Fortnite that way before the build meta really, really settled in. You could play Fortnite very similarly. You could ride the edge, and you could basically always have your back to the edge of the zone, never really get surprised, never really get third-partied, and then you could win with like 1 or 2 kills. And there's something about that has its own version of intensity, because at any moment somebody can surprise you. At any moment somebody can ruin your game, and it's like, oh, and then you want to try again. The problem with an arena shooter is that's not really going to happen. You're largely going to have a very similar experience every single match. It's the match is this long, there's X number of, choke points and approaches to the enemy team or the objective or whatever, and you're largely going to be spending your time running to those locations, getting in a gunfight, and you either win or lose the gunfight, and do it again, do it again, do it again, do it again, do it again. And after a couple hours of that, it's really difficult for you to say you had a memorable experience. You're like, maybe you popped off one game, maybe you didn't, maybe you got stomped, but none of it's going to stand out like the adrenaline rush of a hot drop in a battle royale or a stretch drop where you barely survive and win. Like, those are memorable because you plotted the course and you're not repeating the same action super close together. The RNG nature of the zone, the RNG nature of the loot. There is something about the Battle Royale cocktail that I just think tastes so much better to the player's mind. There's so many things that it can impact and influence in your mind with respect to, you feel like the game is respecting your volition and your choice by letting you kind of determine how the game goes. Your skill and your map awareness and strategy has an enormous impact on whether or not you're successful, and an arena shooter doesn't have a lot of room for that. You're either god tier at your aim and sort of positioning, which means you get more kills than the other guys, like, woo, or you're bad and you just lose. Like, there's not a lot of in between in arena shooters. Yo, what's good, Feed? I see you in the chat. Guys, take a quick second if you're enjoying today's stream. Thanks for the strong turnout. Holy moly, there's a lot of you here. Wanting to talk about why Concord flopped, what's the way forward, what should PlayStation live service games do in the future. Concord gameplay wasn't really even the issue. It wasn't that it was necessarily bad. It's that nobody really cared or wanted the game. So I have an upload about why it flopped. Be sure to go check that out right now. Make sure and leave a comment. You might get featured in the video. And a really great way to support the channel, smash like, get us to 200 likes. That'll help this video find more folks. Consider becoming a member or gifting a member that also supports as well. This guy says we won't want wokeness in games, just games. I just do not think that that's why this game failed. Pronouns weren't the problem. I honestly believe that if this game was really, really good and extremely popular and everybody was playing it, nobody would be talking about pronouns. Like, no one would give a frick. You'd get over it really, really quickly. Like, if they suddenly put pronouns on, like, operators in Black Ops 6 and that Omni movement's popping off and all your friends are having fun and everybody's saying this is one of the greatest Call of Duties ever, blah, no one's going to be like, yeah, but the pronouns, though. No one's going to care. You're going to play the game and have fun. Like, the reason Kill the Justice League failed is not because of, those elements. The reason this game failed is not because of those elements. That really is not the issue. That's such a sidebar issue. Like, literally nobody cares about that if the game's popping off and is fun. Everybody will shut their brain off and just go play and have a good time. No one's going to be seething and mauling about a pronoun if the game has 1 million concurrents on Steam and everybody and their brothers talking about how fun it is. Like, seriously, I mean it. I don't think that is even remotely what you're not even really, I don't think, getting down into the meat and assessing the failings of this game and where it went wrong. Like, it's such a misdiagnosis to be like, yeah, it went woke and it went broke. And it's like, no, it chose a game genre and style that's like 4 years too late. Hilly says, disagree. Memorable moments in other games for sure, but arena shooters have moments too. The frequency doesn't remove that. It doesn't remove that, but it removes the potency of it, Hilly. It removes the potency of it. I remember my wins and my big wins and my really fun wins in Fortnite. I remember them. I remember doing solo squads. I remember winning fights at the end. I can picture the fights in my mind. I played Call of Duty for a decade, brother. I can't tell you a single memory of a single win or a single good game. I can't. You know? I can't. I can't tell you like, oh, I remember playing that Call of Duty match where I really popped off and got a triple KD. And the reason is I'm telling you, it's because the matches are so similar, it makes it more difficult for the potency to hit. The potency's just not there. It isn't. The potency's not there. You can with Halo. I mean, I don't want to say that you're not going to have memories, Hilly. That's not the argument that I'm making. What I'm saying is the game's design makes that difficult. Right? The way that arena shooters are designed, I think it's working against that. Why didn't pronouns have that effect on Baldur's Gate 3? That's exactly the point. Like, nobody gave a frick about how woke Baldur's Gate 3 was. Why? It's a fantastic game made with passion and love, with a ridiculous amount of freedom, and it won Game of the Year. Like, nobody gave a crap that game has similar things in it. Like, again, if you're trying to assess why Concord failed and you're like, and you're clicking on rage bait about pronouns, you're not even getting into the conversation. You're just gliding over it. You're not even getting into the conversation of why a game like Concord flopped and failed. It flopped and it failed because they made a derivative, unoriginal game that feels like it's 5 years too late. That's what happened to this game. It's like they could have quite literally made this game nothing but like super macho, super like anti-woke diatribes and characters that are like flicking off the camera and saying things like, you know, go woke, go broke, bro. And it wouldn't have mattered. It wouldn't have made the game any better. It wouldn't have fixed anything. The fundamentals of the game would have still been, it's a game out of time. It's like this game's 5 years too late and it doesn't have anything really original. But the design also has positives, like you can veg out grinding matches on modes you enjoy. I had maps I wasted hours on, modes that were so goofy. Literal hours disappear. Isn't that the point of a game? Hilly, but you aren't arguing against what I'm arguing for. I'm saying arena shooters don't have legs. If you think you're going to keep a funnel full of players long term with an arena game because it's fun and because you can grind matches and waste hours, if that's what you think, I think you're going to be sorely mistaken when the results come in. I think X Defiant is proving this. I think Splitgate 2 will prove this. I think these games will have that flash in the pan moment where everyone's playing, it's so fun, it's so fresh, everything's shiny, honeymoon, and then reality settles in, people stop coming back, people start playing less. Why? Because again, I just think the arena shooter, as it's designed, is a meat grinder, it's super repetitious, and it just doesn't have staying power. 2 months later, you're not like, dude, I'm dying to go play that map or mode again. You also have to remember some of the times that you're thinking fondly of, homie, I played Instagib, CTF, Facing Worlds, Unreal Tournament for literal days if you added up the time. That's all I would do. I would go to Instagib servers and I would play Facing Worlds over and over and over again. I'm not doing that now. I don't think anybody would do that now. I think certain eras and epochs of gaming fade and fizzle and change. CSGO doesn't really prove anything other than that it's a long, super established game with an enormous player base. If anything, wouldn't that make it harder for other games to come into the market? Hilly, why don't you point to a super successful arena shooter that's come out and has this dominant player base? That has like this huge explosion. You might be able to point to Valorant. You could probably say Valorant has had a really, really good amount of success landing in the econ-based, character-based, you know, it was basically CSGO meets Overwatch, right? It's econ-based, it's tactical, and then you got the characters. They also made CSGO. Right. If you're trying to enter the market right now as an arena shooter, you're competing with Black Ops 6, CSGO, Valorant, Overwatch 2, Marvel Rivals. These are all games that are going to face the struggles that I'm talking about, and they're really, really big. And they're really popular. They're really well known. They're going to face the same exact struggles. They're going to face the same exact struggles. Couple of months in, it's like the player numbers will go down. They will. They always do. How do you maintain that player base with a super, super repetitious game mode? Well, Marvel Rivals can just keep cranking out new characters. So that's like a really, really great cheat code to keep things going. The finals, I think the finals will probably go the same direction that X Defiant's going. I think they'll struggle to maintain a player base. It's like, I'm not saying you can't make a really fun arena shooter. I loved Splitgate when it came out. It was really fun. I played it a bunch. I played it with Hilly one night. I remember playing Overwatch when it first came out, and I had fun with it for a little while. I bet you I could play Marvel Rivals for a weekend and have a good time. I just don't think, with the way the market's set up and saturated and the games that are super popular, it's just going to make it virtually impossible for other arena shooters to come in and maintain a player base. And again, I think it comes back to the fact that the content itself, it's just, once you played a handful of matches, it's kind of like, yes, that's what you're signing up for every single time. Expectations are all off. Games don't need to last years. A game like this, Eugene, I think should at least set its sights on 2 to 3 years, though. I don't think you want to come to the market with an arena shooter or any kind of shooter that's set up to be live service and be like, hey, we're okay if this game only lasts for 10 months. Like, I think that would be an odd strategy, you know. Unless, of course, you budget and say, hey, we're hoping to last for 10 to 12 months, and then if the market determines we should stick around, we'll stick around. Like Splitgate saying they want Splitgate 2 to last for 10 years. I'm like, dude, good luck. I think the arena shooter is just going to struggle. Every single time one comes out, they're going to face the same problem. Everybody gets bored a month later. It's like, what are we doing? When you think about a game like Valorant as a tactical shooter, there's so many elements that keeps the game relevant. There's the competitive players, there's the esports, there's the fact that there's all these different characters to play as, there's the fact that you can completely change your strategy depending on the character, there's the ranking, like if you're playing in the ranked playlist and you're going up in rank, it's for those competitive-minded players. If you're wanting to just build like an arena shooter like Splitgate 2 or a hero arena shooter like Concord, it's like, I just don't know what you think people are going to care about in 6 months. Oh, we can add a character. Marvel Rivals can do that, and everybody gets excited because it's a character everybody knows. Oh, this is really exciting. It's this brand new character. If you're just Concord, it's like, I don't know. Who cares if some new character gets added? Now, Overwatch had the marketing power and the prestige and the name Blizzard attached to it, and they brought something exceptional to the market. But I do think that's another factor here. In the same way that Fortnite has made it very difficult for other battle royales to enter the landscape, I think Overwatch, as it's existed, is just going to make it hard for a hero shooter to get traction in the market. 6 months is more than enough. You get anything more out of that, and it's a bonus. So, do you think, Eugene, that they're going to start budgeting money and teams and all this in the hopes that you maybe get 6 months out of one of these games. I don't know. That seems like a huge risk to say, yeah, no, we're totally okay if this game only makes it 6 months. Maybe they're not really interested in the big money. Maybe they're just interested in data. I trotted out that theory a while ago, and Jason Schreier wasn't interacting with me, but when he was on the Friends Per Second podcast, he's like, I don't really know if that's the strategy. If that's the strategy to just throw a bunch of games at the wall, and if one sticks, it sticks. I mean, they've made more than enough money off of Helldivers 2 with its commercial success. So do you think they're just hoping for little moments like that where a game explodes, makes a ton of money, and then it just naturally fizzles out? I've never heard of a company that wants an FPS to live for just 6 months. That doesn't make sense. I think early access makes more sense than being like, yeah, let's put all this money and blood and treasure into a game, and if it lasts 6 months, great. I don't think so. It makes way more sense to take an incubated concept and bring that to market right now and let people interact with it. If you would have brought Concord out 3 years ago, it'd be a completely different game by now, and it might even be a success. Seriously, if you'd have brought this out in 2021, I think you would have gotten so much input, made so many changes, and it would be a completely different game by now. Maybe even a game that you could call a success. Instead, it's a complete and utter commercial failing. It's like, there's no way you can call this a success in any stretch of the word. It's why their expectations are all off. So, are you saying that anybody making a live service game now, Eugene, should only expect 6 months because of the nature of the market? Or are you saying something else? I'm not sure I understand your point. Because the market shifted, they should just be like, yeah, we're lucky to get 6 months out of a game now. Helldivers 2 probably would have been better as early access. I agree with you. They would have figured out the war bond situation. They would have figured out that people hate nerfs. I don't know how you don't need early access to know that people hate nerfs for Pete's sakes. I don't know. I think Helldivers 2 might have gotten lost in the weeds of the nerfing and the buffing. I think it had a viral moment because it didn't do early access. It just kind of came out. But I don't think everybody can hope for that. You can't hope for the Fortnite moment or the Helldivers 2 moment. You can't hope for that. You're hanging your hat on an imaginary nail. You're like, well, hopefully it's there by the time my hat gets there. And it's like, those were really, really odd moments for these games to have these moments that they had. If you can't sell a few million copies, some skins, and be successful in 6 months, then you've overshot somewhere. I think the difficulty with what you're saying, though, Eugene, is that the free-to-play expectation is well in place, especially if it's a PvP game, and it's only a PvP game. Gamers as well should not expect a game to be popular for more than 6 months. See, I think the dilemma with what you're saying is I think you're going to exacerbate the problem. You're basically going to make games nothing but fodder. Like, play. I expect this game to be irrelevant in 6 months. Just toss it over your shoulder. I mean, I agree that players should start to lower their expectations to a certain degree. Like, don't expect every game to be your next 10-year game. But I think maybe you're reacting too extreme. To me, I would expect a game that sets itself up around being live service. I'm expecting to get at least 1 to 2 years out of this. Whether it's a Helldivers or a Concord or, this Fair Games. I don't expect them to come out with Fair Games and be like, yeah, we're going to support it for 6 months. What? That's it? Just 6 months? What? Huh? Like, you're better off just building a single-player game and giving it really good DLC, maybe some multiplayer co-op, and supporting it for 6 months. Then what's the point in all that investment in server infrastructure and support staff to be like, yeah, 6 months. 4 to 5 years to build it, and then 6 months. Like, and then just do it again, do it again, do it again, you're basically creating a self-fulfilling prophecy. You're basically setting consumer expectation to be like, yeah, these games don't last. I expected 2 months out of Concord and got it. Oh, you meant to say Helldivers. I was like, what? I was like, Concord's dead. You expected to get about 2 months out of Helldivers and you got it. Okay. Given what you're outlining then, Eugene, what do you expect the developer to do? What do you expect what do you expect the Helldivers devs to do? Do you just expect them after that 6 months period to build something else, make something else? If it's a live service game and I don't need to play for a decade, but I'm going to go, man, I'm so happy I got 6 months out of that. Yeah, I feel like you're just running from one extreme to the other, Eugene. It's like, well, it doesn't need to be a 10-year game. I completely agree with that. I think shooting for 2 to 3 years is far more better. I've said that numerous times lately. I think most live service games should be like, let's set our sights on getting to the second or third year, and then we'll reassess on the road. On the road to the second and third year, we can kind of assess where we think things are going. I think that's completely reasonable. If I were to play a game like Helldivers for 2 to 3 years and they said, hey guys, we're going to put this game on coast mode and work on the sequel, I'd be totally fine with that. I'm like, that's more than enough game time. I've had great experiences. You guys did some fun events and seasons, and now it's time to put the game on coast mode. I'd be totally fine with that. If the next Borderlands game comes out and they treat it like a live service game and they get to the third year and they're like, hey, we're just going to do minor events from here on out and we're going to start working on the next Borderlands game, I'd be like, that's totally fine. You go right ahead and do that. I got 2 to 3 years out of your game. You're dialing it all the way back to 6 months, and I'm like, at that point, I'd much rather just do everything I can to squeeze everything I can out of a game like Death Stranding. I'd rather just play that for a couple of months in small spurts, just slowly having this great, long, drawn-out experience, and then put that down, then play a multiplayer live service game that basically is on a 6-month shelf life. I didn't get years out of Gears of War titles. I got 6 just months. But that was the industry was better for it. I mean, I guess that you can have the opinion that the industry was better back then because it launched games that were more about the sidecar PvP to the campaign, and then they sort of became equals, and then for some games like Call of Duty, the multiplayer became the semi-truck, and the campaign became the sidecar. If you thought that was better, so be it. I personally think the sharp dividing line is better. I think getting games like Spider-Man 2 and The Last of Us and God of War, I think getting games like that and then getting a game like Helldivers 2, I think that's the better thing. Make the clear dividing line. Own your core competency. Are you telling me a story? Then just build Ghost of Tsushima and make it amazing. Make the world, the characters, the dialogue, the combat systems, the leveling systems, the skill trees. Make it awesome. Oh, you're building a multiplayer game? Well, then just do that. Just do that. That to me is far better. Have that clear dividing line. Do you want to know why? I bet you Concord's budget was a lot smaller because it was just a PvP game. So if it comes out and it doesn't make it and it flops, boy oh boy, did you save an awful lot of money. But that's part of the problem with Concord is it's a thematically juxtaposed game. Concord gameplay is like 5v5 arena hero shooter, and then they want to do a cutscene every week. Like, why'd you spend that amount of money on cutscenes and mocap and dialogue? What are you doing? That doesn't make any sense. That sounds like a live service PvE game to me. No one should expect years out of a single game. Not devs, not players, no one. Why? Why should they not? Fortnite, Destiny, World of Warcraft, The Division 2, Final Fantasy, Warzone, PUBG, CSGO, Overwatch, League of Legends. There are plenty of games that that have transcended, decades of time. And you'd be like, well, nobody should expect years out of a game. What? There are so many games that have done that. No Man's Sky. Like, I want the clear, GTA Online. I want a clear dividing line. Single player games, ongoing games. This weird thing in the middle that you're advocating for of like the short shelf life multiplayer game, this is my response to that. If somebody came to the market with a short shelf life multiplayer game, we're going to support it for 6 months, and then that's kind of the end of it. You shouldn't expect to get more than about 6 months out of this game. You know what I'm going to say? Who gives a frick about your game? There's an ocean of games coming out. An ocean. I've got single player game after single player game. I've got a backlog. And if I decided suddenly I wanted to play a bunch of multiplayer games, there's just an ocean of those as well. And if you come to the market and you're like, yeah, if the Splitgate 2 guys said that, yeah, we're gonna give a good run here, give a good push for about 6 months, and then we're gonna move on to our next project. I'd be like, all right, cool. You just gave me all the reason in the world to not install your game or check it out. It's too extreme. Like, I get what you're reacting to. I agree that not everybody should expect a game to be a 10-year game. But I don't agree that games should run in the opposite direction and be like 6 months, that's it. That's all you should really expect to get out of this game. What? You can't at least give me a year? You can't give me 18 months? 6 months? How long has the game been in production? 4 or 5 years? You can't like daisy chain parallel develop a bunch of great stuff for the next 12 months and the game's been in development for 4 years, 5 years? Who's almost never disappointed in their game, this guy? It doesn't make your position tenable. It doesn't. Your position's not tenable. I don't think you're going to get companies to commit to that. You're like me with movies, Eugene. I can look at a trailer and know I'm going to hate that, and I don't see it, and I don't waste my money on it, and I don't waste 2 hours of my life on it. I've very rarely seen a bad movie in my life, and that's why. I'm very rarely disappointed in a movie, and that's why. Right? That doesn't mean I could suddenly walk out into the market and be like, well, really what they should start doing with these TV shows is, always only commit to 2 seasons. Do you see? It's like, well, I'm never really disappointed in my movie going watching or my TV show going watching because I'm very selective in what I watch, except for Star Wars. But outside of Star Wars, I have not been disappointed in most of my movie and TV show watching, because Star Wars is in the toilet. Thank you, Kathleen Kennedy. But I couldn't then argue that, like, well, every TV show should basically say we're not going to commit beyond 2 seasons. You're setting the show up for people to be like, 2 seasons? Okay. Now, if it's like a mini drama, mini series one-off, okay, that's different. That's fine. But in general, if they would have come out with The Last of Us and said, we are absolutely not going to do a 3rd season, we're just going to do 2 seasons, it would have hurt it would have hurt the reception of the show. People would have been like, I'm not going to get invested in a show that you're only going to get to the 2nd season and then be done. Now, I think you're right, Eugene. Sometimes it could help. Like, a 2-season commitment would be great. Mindhunter would have not ended on a cliffhanger, sure. But that's a Netflix problem more than a quality problem. If you can't get past 6 months, then you can't do 2 years. Here's the problem with what you're saying. There are logistical problems with what you're saying, Eugene. Let's say they take your advice, and let's say the next big arena shooter game to come out, we'll call it Concord 2. If Concord 2 comes out, let's just say Concord came out, and they're like, yeah, we're only committing to 6 months of support. In what universe is that going to create excitement and hype and demand? Don't you think that would be absolute acid on interest? Like, if Valorant would have come out and said, yeah, we're only really looking to get about 6 months out of this game, I don't think the market would be receptive to that. I think the consumer would say, huh? Yeah, a show like Shogun, you knew it was going to be 1 season going in, but that's like a mini series. if you're committing to going beyond a series, listen, my analogy only goes so far. The point that I was making is you would give people a reason to not get invested. Part of the reason you're upset about Mindhunter is you got invested. You thought, man, this show is going to go the distance. It's super compelling. Great writing, great acting. Let's go. And then the cancellation is infuriating for that reason. I don't think you're going to get the market to respond to a live service game that out of the gates like, yeah, we're going to give you half a year. There's no opportunity for virality, popularity, or large interest there. Many people are going to shrug and be like, well, okay. I said they shouldn't expect their game to be popular after that. I guess you'd have to define popular. Delta says, what about tacked on multiplayer modes for single-player co-op games like Space Marine 2? The reason I like that, Delta, is I'm not saying that every game should do that. I still think that having that clear dividing line typically leads to really, really good content. I would much rather have Insomniac build an amazing Spider-Man 2 than try to build an amazing Spider-Man 2 while also building some weird multiplayer thing. Does that make sense? I think certain games are better for it. I think The Last of Us 2 was better because they cut out factions. I'm going to say it. I know it hurts people's fifis, but I think cutting out factions was the right choice. Last of Us 2 just stands alone as an amazing story-driven game. Now, obviously, in the remaster, they brought the fun rogue mode, and the reason for them taking it out was completely different than prioritizing the single player. They thought they were going to build like a Fortnite with their game because Fortnite was popping off and factions was traditionally very popular in the first game, more popular than people expected. But the point is that typically I do like that dividing line. I want a developer to do what a developer's good at. If you're really good at single-player games, then just keep making single-player games, okay? So to your question about Space Marine, I do think there is room sometimes for like hey, we built a really great single-player game, but it's also largely built around co-op, so why don't we do some ongoing stuff? Why don't we do some PvP? Why don't we do some of this extra added stuff? I think there's room for that. I always worry about the quality. Like, is the quality of Space Marine 2 PvP going to be worth the effort? Or is it going to feel like a tack on? Is it going to feel like a half measure? I'm not saying that it's going to be bad. I'm saying my immediate concern when I hear that is I don't have a whole lot of confidence in that being like a high quality piece of property. Not the game itself, the PvP element. Right? Like if Borderlands 4 came out and said, oh yeah, we're going to do a PvP element, I'd be like, yeah, the PvP is probably not going to be very good. I just wouldn't expect it to be very good. I would expect it to be slapped together, you know, non-substantive, right? And so with their heavy focus, you know, you're saying there's going to be a heavy focus on multiplayer. I tend to think that the best games are the games that are, this is the game, right? Like when people wanted there to be PvP in Helldivers 2, and I'm like, no, let Helldivers 2 be Helldivers 2. If you want to go play a PvP game, go play a PvP game. There's an ocean of them. And I think the best PvP games are just PvP games. The games that have the most success and I think the most engagement, the winning formula is it's just a PvP game. Whether you look at Fortnite Battle Royale, Call of Duty Warzone, PUBG, Apex Legends, Rainbow Six Siege, or Valorant, or CSGO 2, right? And you might point to some of those and say, well, Fortnite was originally PvE. Yeah, but look at the Battle Royale. It's just a Battle Royale. That's all it is. Right? Well, Call of Duty does campaigns and stuff. No. Warzone. Warzone is just their take on Battle Royale. That's all it is. The teams that work on that, that's all they're working on. You know, Rainbow Six Siege turned things around by focusing just on that element of their game. The PvP element, the competitive element. Valorant is another good example more recently. And then, you know, CSGO 2 and CSGO, I mean, that's just a staple in the industry. It's almost like Call of Duty. It's like, how could you fail? But the point is that I think you end up with a higher quality product when that's all it is. It feels like Eugene's comments are misunderstood by chat. I don't think he's saying games should only be made with a 6-month lifespan, but rather consumers shouldn't expect year-long games anymore, and anything beyond 6 months could be considered a success with the way live service games have gone lately. Correct me if I'm wrong here. You missed Concord on the list of great PvP games? That's right. This guy says, nothing would have helped this game. The character design sure didn't help. Absolute trash tier. This game isn't an adventure game mixed with racing and Monster Hunter RPG and all the mill spent. That's where the game went wrong in my view. Oh, he wanted an adventure game mixed with racing and Monhun. PvE extraction would have been a blast. I think that, yeah, I think Concord being more of like a PvE extraction game with loot would have been better. Cope? It flopped. How is that a cope? Go console war somewhere else, you dolt. It flopped. It flopped because they had no original ideas. Like, that's I feel like my video is pretty harsh. It's like, nobody was interested. It felt like Guardians of the Galaxy at home. It was largely derivative. The gameplay didn't matter. Like, the game is dead. There's no cope necessary. Anybody who thinks that I need to cope about Concord failing lives terminally on Twitter, and they've not watched a single minute of my content. I have been negative about Concord from the very beginning. I called it a huge risk. I said that I didn't think it was going to go anywhere. I said, yeah, people are enjoying it. I remember my nephews enjoyed it, and I said, I just don't think it's going to go anywhere. I don't think it has what it takes. I don't need to cope. I'd be having to cope if it was hugely successful. I've been in disagreement with most of the people on Twitter who are like trying to act like the score should be higher because of the demo. I'm like, get out of here. Marvel vs. Capcom is excited to announce that after technical discussions with our partners at Microsoft, we can confirm that Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection Arcade Classics will release on Xbox One. The Xbox One version will be out in 2025, so please stay tuned for more information. Wait. How's it landing on PlayStation? Is it landing on a... It's just a PlayStation 4 version, right? That's not actually a bad thing, correct? Isn't Marvel vs. Capcom, that fighting collection, isn't it landing on PlayStation as a PS4 game? Or is it landing as a PS5 game? What's it called? Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection? PlayStation Store. I don't think that that's a PS5 game. I think it's a PS4 game that you'll play through backwards compatibility, right? Yeah, so no, that makes perfectly good sense why they figured it out. It's going to come to Xbox. It'll be Xbox One, and then you'll play it through backwards compatibility. Yeah. When I first read that, I thought, that's weird. And I thought, wait a minute, I think that's how it's landing on PlayStation as well. That's a win for the Xbox guys, because they were missing out on another title. It was like another game just not coming to your platform for no one knows why. Everybody was speculating the reasons why. We were never given a reason why. Ashen says, I'll be honest, apart from your coverage, I didn't hear anything regarding this game from my friend circles on Twitter, which just feels weird to me. Everyone shrugged it off. That's why I said in my video that the packaging matters. Right? The packaging matters. The way it was packaged from the very beginning, it like... If you go back and you watch the original cinematic trailer for Concord that showcased during the PlayStation Showcase of 2023, okay? Go back and watch that trailer. Do you remember what I said? I said, what's the point of this? Thank you, John, always for gifting a member. You guys are going to have a slightly slower start this week because we took yesterday off. 10 members to start the week. You guys are going to have to kick it into high gear if you want to have Madam playing Destiny again and having that community game night. We stream Friday night no matter what. Thank you, John, always for poking it. Let's see if we can't get the members going here. If you go back and you watch that Concord teaser trailer, you remember at the time, I was very critical of the PlayStation Showcase. And I said, what was the point of that? What was the point of showing me cinematic trailers for Fair Games and cinematic trailers for Concord? It doesn't communicate anything about the game at all. And here we sit a year later, they come out with an actual cinematic with the characters, and everyone goes, what? What is this? And so the packaging matters. All of a sudden, it went from like this kind of like cool retro vibe to, oh, it's going for like the plucky Marvel Guardians of the Galaxy vibe. And I could have gotten over that. And then what they do? Then they rolled out the gameplay. And boy, oh boy, I've never seen a game so quickly get yawned at. It was like, the disinterest was immediate. People are like, why? A 5v5 arena shooter? What? A 5v5 hero arena shooter. Arena hero shooter. Like, and this is why I tell people that are like, oh, it failed. Go woke, go broke. I'm like, nobody was talking about the game being woke in those first couple of days. It was, this is Guardians of the Galaxy derivative, and the gameplay doesn't look new at all. It looks like Destiny meets Overwatch. That's what people said. What is this about? No. Just wait till Fair Games comes out. I think it's going to be a similar scenario. I think Fair Games is going to come out and it's just going to feel derivative of other games like Payday and Grand Theft Auto. It's going to be like, well, we played this game before. I hope I'm wrong. But Fair Games looks like it's going to be like a PvP heist game. And it's like, I don't think that's going to make people say, oh, I have to play that game. You've got more hope for Fair Games now? Why, Donnie? Isn't Fair Games the same type of game? As far as we can tell, Fair Games is PvP heist. Introducing Fair Games, a competitive heist experience coming to PS5 and PC, says their blog. This is it. That's what they're calling it. A competitive heist game. You get like a very, very quick glimpse here of what it might look like. Yeah, and they showed it during that PlayStation Showcase in 2023. Donnie says, 1, it can't get any worse. 2, lessons learned from Concord. Hopefully make changes and adjustments. I tell you what I think is going to happen in the wake of Concord. I tell you what I think is going to happen. Marathon gets canceled. Marathon gets canceled, and other live service games also get canceled. Like, that's what I think is going to be the result of this. I don't think there's lessons to be learned. I think the lesson is, we just need to start canceling some of these projects. I thought Fair Games was Hyenas, the other competitive PvP heist games. I thought it was this. No, Hyenas is not Fair Games. Completely separate games. Oh, Ask Barrier. You thought Fair Games was Hyenas. Yeah, it's like, it feels like it's going to be derivative. That's a big call. I think Marathon's done. There's too much negativity attached to it now. The former director was a predator. The new director changed it into a hero, a cast of heroes. Inside Bungie, the feeling around the game is not great, and it reminds Jason Schreier of Kill the Justice League because of the sunk cost. And then internal feelings about the game are that leadership just wants to get it out the door before the final payments from PlayStation come in. That game is freaking cooked. Why even bother at this point? Just nuke the site from orbit and get all that talent and all that work and bring it back into Destiny somehow. Because that's, I don't know, a product that actually makes you money. Without boneheaded Bungie, there's no way it gets canceled. Why do you want them canceled? Because I don't want more games like Concord to come out. You would rather them try and fail and resources and teams are there to do it? No, I disagree. No. Here's my take, Donnie. You and I are almost in agreement. But you're in another universe. You're in the universe where you're like, dude, just ship it, learn the lessons, and try to grow from it. I'm in another universe. My universe is start launching small incubated concepts in early access and iterate from there. That's how you get good games. That's how you're going to get failures weeded out for much less money. That's how you're going to get successes. You don't just charge forward full steam ahead. Well, just release it. We'll see what happens. Crash and burn. All the marketing they spent on Concord just gone. Like, no. See, like, we're almost aligned. It's like you're over here and you're thinking along the same lines as me. It's like, well, just ship it and learn the lessons. And I'm like, no. Cancel it if it's going to die, if it's not going to make it. If it's all signs pointing to failure, then cancel it. Because all the money you save by not launching it, you can pour into the next thing. You just want to just keep shoveling money. What's that gif where they're just shoveling money into the fire furnace like it's coal? It's like that. No. And then the other problem with that, Donnie, is the public right now is shaky on whether or not PlayStation Live service games are worth a damn. Helldivers 2, kaboom, and comes back down. But still, the memory is commercial success, lots of fun. You can always come back to Helldivers and have a good time. That game's not going anywhere. We know this to be true. They can't quite figure out the nerfing and the buffing and making the community mad, whatever. I appreciate, all the support for my video on that. I think we struck a really good chord with that community. So you got that, and then you got Concord on the other end. So confidence in PlayStation Live service games is shaky right now. It's like, well, Helldivers 2 did really well, and then they've done literally everything they can to tick everybody off. Concord crashed and burned. You can't keep throwing things out like fair games. If it comes out and it crashes and burns, eventually people are going to say, dude, PlayStation Live service games suck. Why am I going to play a PlayStation Live service game? If Marathon comes out and crashes and burns, people are going to be like, dude, I'm not going to play a PlayStation Live service game. They can't figure this out. They just keep throwing out crap. Now, I said a while ago that I think PlayStation's strategy is let's have smaller teams and let's throw out a bunch of different types of games and let's see what hits and what doesn't. That's not quite what you're advocating for, Donnie. Like, I don't want games coming out if the internal signs are like this is gonna fail. To clarify, I don't mean just ship any old crap if they know it's gonna fail. I was speaking about Marathon and Fair Games. We have no idea if those will fail. We're assuming a lot here. I actually don't think I'm assuming that much, Donnie. I think the market is sending a loud and clear message that Marathon, no. And Fair Games, no. No. The concept of a competitive heist game, I don't think the market would be receptive to that right now. The vibe around Helldivers was instantly like, that looks fun, that looks mindless, I'm gonna go kill aliens with the boys. The vibe around Fair Games has been since the beginning, like, why? Who wants to play a competitive heist game? Who wants that? As soon as Concord pulled the mask off and said, surprise, this is what we are, everyone said, ew, no one wants your game. Marathon's gonna be the same way. Is anybody right now dying for like a hero extraction shooter? What the frick? Now, I'm on record saying Marathon has a better shot than Concord because Marathon is bringing something to a genre that doesn't currently exist. Like Apex brought hero shooter to battle royale, Marathon could bring hero shooter to the extraction shooter and potentially have a chance. They have a greater chance than Concord. I still think from everything we've heard internal at Bungie, cancel that absolute crap storm. Shut it down. We haven't heard a single thing about that game that would make me say it should go. It should launch. Sega learned a lot having Hyenas canceled. The game was due to release on PC, PlayStation 5, PlayStation 4 in August. Sega executives publicly called Hyena's development challenging, raising the possibility it would be canceled, and stated that they would look at adjusting the game's business model, possibly to free-to-play. Its development was halted by Sega in September of 2023, along with multiple other unannounced games, due to lower profitability of the European region. An anonymous developer blamed the game's failure on a lack of creative direction, management being asleep at the wheel, making an unoriginal game for a saturated market, as well as the disruptive engine change to Unreal. They believe that in the future, Sega would be more demanding about games they publish due to the significant monetary loss of the game's cancellation. What point are you making about Hyenas there, Wheezy? I don't have huge hope in Fair Games, but I think we are being harsh here. We know about 2 details of the game. Let's at least give it some benefit. Okay, my pushback is, Donnie, my solution is incubated concept. Okay, let's throw this out in early access. I think right now, if you threw out a competitive heist game, I think people would say, I just don't have any interest in that. And if I'm wrong, early access is a great way to learn that. They go full steam ahead with Fair Games. They market it, they launch it, and it fails and it crashes and burns. Dude. That's going to be 2 in a row. That's going to be 2 strikeouts in a row for PlayStation live service game efforts. DP Sage with 33 months on a VIP. 3 more months until 3 years. Keep up the great work. Thank you, DP Sage. The member count is now at 11. Thank you so much. Guys, make sure and take a quick second and smash the like button. Huge turnout today to discuss Concord flopping. Make sure and let's try to hit 300 likes. That is free. Just make sure that thumbs up button has been pressed. We got a lot of comments on the upload this morning. Let's check some of them out here. Mr. Gaming, M Gaming says this game flopped because of woke trash with terrible gameplay. It's a cartoon shooter that brought nothing to the table. The DEI characters are trash. The woke stance of the game means that no one wants to play it. Yeah, the gameplay wasn't the problem. It felt good. It is basically 5 years too late. I really don't think the gameplay was the problem. The gameplay felt fine. It did. I played it with my nephews. I told you guys. I was like, gunplay feels good, movement feels good, map design and the game modes are, they seem fine. Let me go to the earliest comment here. Silent Spartan says, I'm surprised at launch given how disinterested the public was upon reveal. Live service and Sony just don't seem to be mixing well. Helldivers 2 is their North Star right now. I think they just need to look at Helldivers 2. And what made it work and what made it start to slow down. Yeah, like the minute you think Concord failed and you're like, trash, woke, DEI, it's like, oh my gosh. It's like, come on, dude, be thoughtful here. That's not why the game failed. Baldur's Gate 3 has the exact same ideas and principles in it. You got pronouns, you got people of all types of different whatever, and that game was a smash hit. do you think the studio is a real risk of closure after this? I didn't want to put that in my video because I wanted to make the video about why did this game flop and what's the way forward for PlayStation Live Service games. My hope and assumption is that PlayStation will not be so brash to be like, yeah, you're gone. You're out. Bye. They have a really, really talented studio. I just think the studio needs to be put into the right race car. You know? These guys are out here trying to hit the ground. You know, they're trying to get on the racetrack of PvP games, and you know, they're driving a Ford Taurus. It's like you're not going to be able to keep up. Your game was just outdated. It wasn't relevant. It wasn't new. It wasn't fresh. It was outdated the minute it hit the ground. But if you had a really, really good racing team racing with a Ford Taurus and you got them out of that car and you put them into something else, these guys could make a killer game. I hope so. They made woke garbage, send them packing, get rid of all this woke nonsense. I just think that's just such a misdiagnosis of what's going on here. Because they put pronouns in the game, you're like, you want them all fired and shut down? Taurus catching strays right now. Concord's quality, that's getting overlooked. Yeah, they shipped a game at quality. Like, they shipped a game at quality. It's like quality gunplay, movement. You could talk about character design and art direction. Okay, we could have a debate about that. But, like, the way the abilities work and the way that the flow of the game works, like, it's a game that's at quality. It wasn't a buggy, glitchy mess. It wasn't missing features. It wasn't missing modes. It was ready to go. The game offers nothing to the table that's already there. But to add that nonsense on top is a bigger insult. Why do pronouns hurt you so deeply? What? I want you to tell me what in this game is so woke other than the pronouns. Like, let's say this Deadlock game comes out and it's just a smash hit and everyone's playing it. And they put pronouns on the character selection screen. Is everyone going to throw their hands up and say, this is a trash game, don't play it? A 10 spot from True SSJ Havoc. I used to be anti-woke too, but I got bored getting mad at every weird design thing and calling it stuff DEI. The gameplay was fine. I had fun playing it. The woke stuff was the least of the problems. Thank you for the $10 super chat. You want woke? Go try Dustborn. I'm on the side of people that think pronouns in the game don't make any sense. It was a stupid decision. I think it's also stupid to get upset about it. The Quidditch game has pronouns. That'll be an interesting Schrodinger's box, won't it? Wheezy, what makes Deadlock? Deadlock has pronouns? There you go. That's what I'm saying to you. If the game is good, no one's going to care about pronouns. No one cares if the game is good. If Deadlock is as good as everybody says it is, it's going to be super popular and have a ton of people playing it, completely repudiating the notion that, like, yep, go woke, go broke. That's why Concord failed, and that's why Kill the Justice League failed. And it's like, no, that's not why these games are failing. They're failing because they're bad games. They are failing because they are bad games. Or, in the case of Concord, it was a good game that should have shipped 5 years ago. It's not that the game is bad, it's that the game just there's no demand for it right now at all. It's like taking a product that everybody was all the rage about, like a digital camera, right? Digital cameras probably don't sell the way that they used to when they were all the rage. I worked in the digital imaging department in Best Buy, and the time it took for the demand for like little digital cameras and nice digital cameras to completely evaporate, it took like no time at all. Now, professional photographers are still using actual cameras, digital DSLRs, and things like that. But like the consumer level, put it in your pocket, digital camera, that market just sort of went into thin air and like overnight with the invention of the camera phone. And then obviously iPhone and everything starts to get more advanced. So right now you could design an amazing digital camera to put into your pocket. And it would be like, this is a quality piece of equipment and there's no demand for it. That's what Concord is. It's a well-built digital camera that's like, it's well built, but nobody wants this anymore. It's outdated. It has an expiration date on it from 5 years ago. Concord would not have been good even 4 years ago. It's not a good game. I don't think it would have been a commercial failure, Paul. I think it would have gotten a player base 4 or 5 years ago. I do. I think 2019 or 2020. Yeah, no, I think this game would have gotten a player base. I do. I don't think it would have been a smash hit, but I don't think it would have been an absolute colossal failure 4 or 5 years ago. I think it would have gotten people to play and gotten people to buy and enjoy it. We hadn't gone through the injection of like all these other free to play battle royales yet. It hadn't happened in great quantity yet. The absolute irony of a bunch of people using fake names on the internet getting upset over someone wanting to be referred to as certain pronouns. Well, I don't think that's what's upsetting it, but sure. That's a bit of a straw man. It's more of what it represents, right? I mean, I definitely agree that if a game developer feels like, hey, we need to put pronouns on this mushroom-headed alien so people know that he identifies as he or they, I'm immediately like, why do you care about that? Why is that important? Like, I agree with the anti-woke crowd to like that degree. It's like, wait a second, can we just press pause? Why does that matter? Why do I need to know what a robot or an alien species from another planet, like, that might not even consider these things important? Why do I need to know that? Like, it does. It immediately lets me think, oh, why are you guys worried about this? So I look at it from like an artistic standpoint. It's like, if this is a priority at your company, I'm concerned about where this game is headed. I don't think it affected the game at all. I wasn't like, I have to pick a robot and it's an it. Like, I just didn't care. I was like, the gameplay was fun. The guns felt good. The movement felt enjoyable. Getting a couple multi-kills with some grenades with the one character, I was kind of like, this is kind of fun. And I thought, I'll never come back to this game, probably ever. You know? I wasn't mauling over a pronoun. I was like, this just doesn't have any staying power. There's nothing special here. Like, I would say the same thing about the fair games, the competitive heist game. If it comes out and it's got like woke stuff in it, I'll be like, I don't care about that. How's the gameplay? You know? Baldur's Gate 3 and then this Deadlock game, it's going to make it really hard for people to keep saying go woke, go broke. No, make bad product, go broke. If you make a bad product, you go broke. It just so happens that we've seen some efforts from Disney especially that has made it very clear you were focused on this to such a degree it diluted the product. You made a bad product. You hired bad writers, bad directors. You hired people who think in the realm of art as activism, and it ruined the content. But the content being bad is the issue. Like, there's obviously an infection point there that you have to consider. Like, these people come in with this idea about like, well, we want our show to say this message. And it's like, good shows and movies focus on telling a great story first. You start shifting those priorities around. And everything's going to go bad. But I always want to get down into the assessment of it. It's like, why was the show bad? Why was the writing bad? It's woke. No, you're not saying anything at that point. Why, though? Was the pacing bad? Was the acting bad? Right? Did they not really establish good character arcs and character development and establish really good and well-rooted and well-meaning character motivation so that you understand them and why they're doing what they're doing? Or did everything kind of turn on a whim and a dime in every single episode? Like, those are the things I want to get down into. And when it comes to Concord flopping, if you are going to actually go down in history and 5 years from now be like, Concord flopped because it was woke, you're not even remotely speaking in reality. You're not. You're speaking in rage bait language that drives YouTube and Twitter interaction. The reason this game failed is because it has no footing right now. Nobody was clamoring to play it. The average consumer saw the trailer, saw the gameplay, and said, no thanks. Like, that set the tone. That's why my video starts with the packaging matters. The way they packaged this game from moment one was like, why would I play that? I've played a game like that before. There's nothing new. Even if you have the most sophisticated critic of the woke materials, you should know calling it woke ends the conversation. You want to have a sophisticated convo, keep it sophisticated. If you're on that side, then you and I are on the same page. I just think overall the game offers nothing that we already have, but this necessary pronoun stuff is dumb. Yeah, I just think that's window dressing, right? They built a really, really outdated home, and you're talking about the curtains. It's like nobody wants to buy this house. It looks like a shack. It looks like it's going to fall over. Well, no, no. Concord doesn't have bad quality. It's just it looks outdated. If you built a home that looked super outdated, like a shack, and it was like, what is this? This isn't how homes are built anymore. It doesn't have any of the modern amenities. It feels super outdated. You're talking about the dadgum curtains. Well, the curtains are really ugly. That's why nobody's buying the house. And it's like, no. That's not why this game failed. That's not why people expressed a lack of interest in it. When that gameplay trailer dropped after the cinematic trailer, nobody was like, go woke, go broke. They were like, it looks like derivative trash. It looks like Guardians of the Galaxy, and then the gameplay looked like something that I have played before. The disinterest was the start of all of their problems. It was the start of all of their problems. They finally come out, and they're finally going to let us see Concord, and everybody went, that's it? That's the game? I sat here and watched it with you guys, and we were all like, this is what we've been waiting for? Fun fact, homes were built with more quality 50 years ago. It's probably true. Harbinger, with a gifted member, takes us to 12 members for the week. Guys, remember, every 25, I give 5 back. We're going to have to start to hit some momentum today if we're going to hit that goal this week. My disinterest started when they said $40 PvP only game. Right, Weezy. There were so many facets to why this game said it, so it like made a messy bed before even moving in. It was like, what? No one's going to play a $40 PvP game, and it's, oh, by the way, it's not even like a new game. It's a 5v5 arena hero shooter. And it's got direct animation rips from Destiny? What are we even talking about here? David Farias comments on the upload and says, why didn't anyone from developers, friends, and family tell them, hey, Dad, this game blows. My friends and I would rather play Overwatch. I think the game was fun. It just wasn't relevant enough. I played the game with my nephews. My nephews played with my son. And they all said, this game is really fun. I got back. I'm in Ohio. I tell my nephews, I'm going to get the demo installed. And then because I got some codes. And I said, I'm going to get the demo installed on your devices. And I want to know what you think. I said, I don't think this game's going to be worth it. You know, I don't think it's going to go very far. I don't think it's going to last. I get back from a family thing, And my nephew greets me at the door and says, "You were wrong about that game." I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "It's really fun." I was like, "I never said it wasn't going to be fun. I said, I don't think this game's going to last." He says, "Well, he's like, I don't know." He's like, "I think it might be pretty good." So I go down and I play. They're playing. I'm watching them play. I step in. I'm like, "Hey, which character do you recommend?" They made some character recommendations. I played 2 or 3 games. I was middle to top fragger on my team. We were winning. We were all playing together. We were just kind of deathballing around the map. And I was like, I just don't think there's any compelling gameplay here. I was like, there's no ultimates. It's modes I've played before, with movements I've played before, with guns that feel like I've played with them before. That just doesn't feel like anything worth playing. How old's the nephew? He is 14. They're 16, 14, and 10, I think, are their ages, and they all thought it was fun. But that's never really been the question. The question was never, is it going to be fun? The question was, is it going to last? And is there going to be interest in the game at all? If you could get people to play it, they might be like, "Hey, this isn't too bad." But I don't think you could get them to come back. Lance left a comment on my video. He says, "The whole approach that Sony has taken for their live service push so far has been seemingly all shooters of different varieties. While shooters have their place and might be the lowest fruit to grab in live service, most of those modes maybe, are overly saturated with high movement arcade shooter types. We have a ton of these already. Maybe it's my nostalgia talking, but what happened to the mill sim that requires less individual uber movement skills and more reliance on team tactics and long-term objectives?" I think live service future is in PvE and not PvP, to be honest. I don't even need to read the rest. I think that the future of live service rests in PvE. I do not think it rests in PvP. PvP is too saturated. It's too hard to have an original idea in PvP. I think it's extremely challenging. I do. I think it's a challenging environment to go into. I think the future of live services is in PvE. I mean that. Vasilios leaves a comment and says, "Such a hyper-competitive space. Why would anyone play an Overwatch clone when they can play the real thing? And for $40. For sure. For sure. They also have to spend $40 to even get in." Joker Quinn left a comment and says, "Maybe Sony will see how and why this game flopped and maybe kickstart the process of something truly innovative in the live service realm." Early access is the key. I think early access is the key to this. If you want to start to throw out innovative ideas, if you want teams to start to take risks, then I think that I really do. I think you absolutely need to go have games coming out in early access. That's the ticket. If you want teams to take risks and try really cool and innovative things, it's extremely difficult to do that if you're like, well, this game has to come out in 5 or 6 years. Well, what they're going to do is they're going to make very safe bets. Now, the irony here is those safe bets aren't so safe anymore. You might think that an arena shooter, a battle royale, an extraction game. These are safe bets. No, they're not. They're not safe bets because there's nothing innovative about that. What you can do, I think, is start to place maybe more risky bets with a smaller amount of capital by doing early access incubation projects. Let people see the game. Let people understand what you're doing. You could do an entire series. Listen, PlayStation, you brand it, right? You got your China Hero project. You would brand this. You would call this something. Come up with the name, shop it with the marketing gurus, and come up with a really, really good name for this. And you would start doing dev diaries of some sort to outline what the game's going to be like. And you would create a runway of marketing for the early access. And then the game would come out, and the entire purpose of this would be, we want to come up with something truly fresh and new, and one of the best ways to do that is to make a game and have it be more malleable and more agile so that the development of the game can then be impacted by the community. Call it something, give it a project name, give it something to where games would come out and be like, here's our dev cycle diary, here's what we're working on, here's what we're thinking, this is the concept we're going for. We want to innovate on these key principles of, maybe it's player versus player, maybe it's PvE, maybe it's loot based, who knows, maybe there's RPG elements, maybe there's extraction elements, who knows, but the goal is to innovate. And one of the best ways to innovate is to take something smaller that's more agile and let the community play it. And you might do this and scrap some of them and say, this isn't going to work. Thanks for the feedback. We're going to go back to the drawing board. Or, hey, you guys have been coming up with some really great feedback. We're going to go head down. We're going to come back in 6 months with some pretty significant updates. Thanks so much for your help. Like, I'm telling you, if you do this right, you could harness the power of the mind of the millions, or however many people would join in and play these games, and you can end up with, I think, real hits. You can end up with good product. Now, many people would say, well, aren't we just becoming beta testers then? Ask the people that have given a copious amount of their time and energy to Baldur's Gate 3 if that's what they feel like. Ask the people that are going to be giving a lot of their time and energy to Path of Exile 2. Ask them if that's what they feel like. Do they feel like they're just some stupid beta tester guinea pig, or have they enjoyed the process? Now, obviously, if you have a bunch of these projects just go belly up and they go nowhere, that's not a good look. But again, if the context is, we are doing this so that we can start to really press against new ideas and come up with new ways to do things so that you can have really good games come to the market that can last. I do feel like a beta tester, but I'm happy that I'm a beta tester. And people are like, I feel like I'm part of Baldur's Gate 3, right? Jay from the state with a gifted membership takes us to 13. Thank you so much. A white badge out here, gifted members. You love to see it. Guys, let's get the member count going. We've been really quiet on it today, and that's totally fine. I've not been drawing attention to it. If you can't gift a member, take a quick second, smash the like button, say something in chat. You're going to increase the likelihood of you getting a membership if you are engaging with the channel. Zubair says, you know that you're signing up for development early access. Right now, people are being drafted into being beta testers. Right. Wouldn't you rather play a game in its early incubated form and sort of get to look like, this is a really cool idea, instead of being like, oh, the game's been in development for 5 or 6 years, I played it, it doesn't seem ready, or it seems out of touch, or there's 18 different things I would change. Eugene says, I think I'm fully anti-live service at this point, no interest at all. I think that's fine. You know, I think that's fine. I think it's fine if you don't want to play live service games. I stopped wanting to play PvP games. I think we all go through these evolutions as gamers. Like, I don't want to touch PvP games anymore. I'm just like, yeah, I'm good. Everybody's like, the Black Ops 6 beta, oh, it's popping off. And I was just like, oh, good. Have fun, boys. Have fun, boys. You know, I watched my kiddos play Minecraft, and I played Inscription. I was just like, I was chilling on my couch with the PlayStation Portal, playing Inscription. My kids are playing Minecraft, and I just was like, man, I hope everybody's having a really fun time with Black Ops 6 PvP. You know, and that's just where I think when you get to that place where you know what you like and you know what you want, that's totally fine to be like, dude, I have no interest in live service games. There's a lot of people that are already there. They got there before you, Eugene. You know? They got there before you. They thought, Yeah, I don't have any interest in this. I don't want to play a game that's going to be, you know, basically demanding me to treat it like a part-time job from moment one, you know. All of the tropes and the things that are bothersome about live service games. Corey says, I'm against the idea that a PvP game needs to be free to play in order to survive. We know what the model is. I'm never going to do that. I don't think it's an idea, Corey. I think it's a reality. You're like, I'm against the idea that PvP needs to be free to play to survive. I don't think it's an idea. I think it's a reality. How else are you going to fill your funnel with enough players? How? Even if you do free to play, you're facing a saturation challenge. Even if you do free to play, you're already facing a challenge of saturation. Wheezy says it's not an idea, it's a reality. Sorry, Wheeze. You and Eugene have a habit recently of like, we're saying things at the same time. I think the market reality of a PvP game is you just have to accept that that's the way things are. It would be like trying to enter the fast food market and being like, we don't have to race to the bottom on price. Good frickin' luck. Good luck. Do a fast food restaurant with like entree prices of a restaurant and see how long you're in business. It wouldn't work. Why? The format and the speed and the convenience and the cost structure of a fast food restaurant, it wouldn't work if your value meal was $20. Right? Now, inflation, right? You may be watching this video 10 years later and they're like, well, this idiot. Inflation will obviously drive those up. But you understand my point? You can't enter the market right now and be like, no, we're not going to do free to play with our PvP game. Good luck, dude. No one's even going to give you a second glance. No one's going to give you a second glance. They're not going to say, oh, dude, but I can play Marvel Rivals, Valorant, Apex Legends, Warzone, PUBG, Fortnite, and a host of other games for no dollars. McDonald's has gotten pretty expensive. Right. Like, you know, you go to Chick-fil-A or McDonald's. Surely the prices have gone up. But if you compare that to the inflation of restaurants, is my point. Go into your average sit-down restaurant right now, and the price of an entree is still roughly double that of like a fast food value meal. You know, fast food value meals, you know, $8 or $9. Maybe sometimes even close, right? $10. You go to an entree restaurant, sit down, and you're spending $20 to $21. You're spending maybe 17 or 18, maybe, if it's a restaurant that's trying to keep things as low as possible. That's the point I'm making is you can't bring the pricing structure of a sit-down restaurant to a fast food restaurant. It wouldn't work. People would be like, are you freaking kidding me? No. There's no way that you would be able to get the food quality where it needs to be in order to charge that much money, because the market's going to say absolutely not. When I come to a drive-through, I expect a fast, greasy burger, taco, whatever, and I expect to spend approximately this amount of money. I don't expect to spend that much money because I'm not sitting down. I'm not being served. There's not an ambiance. There's not free refills because I'm in the drive-through. I'm not in your restaurant, right? So like it's the same with PvP. You're never going to come to the market right now and be like, no, yeah, sure, our PvP game is $40. Our PvP game is $20. $13 at the Burger King down the road. McDonald's has a breakfast sandwich for $7. I decided they can go F themselves. Right. I mean, that always happens, right? When prices are going up and they're dislodged from earnings, the average income of the consumer, you're going to have that dislodgement happen, and now and then people aren't buying it. They're like, I'm not, traffic to those industries starts to go down. Count me out. If free-to-play multiplayer is the reality of multiplayer games, then I'm good. No way I'm signing up for free-to-play. Free-to-play can kick rocks too. There you go. Eugene and Corey, you guys can go play a paid-for PvP game together. I'm not being smug. I mean it. Like, you guys, you're the minority, sadly. I'm not saying it's good. I'm not saying it's good. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm saying this is the reality. You know? At some level, I agree with you. A paid-for PvP game helps with a lot of things. It can help with your anti-cheat efforts. It can help with server queues on launch date, right? Because you're limiting the amount of people that can come in. You know? I'm not just talking PvP. Oh. I have a very different opinion about free-to-play PvE games. I have a very different opinion. Free-to-play PvP is different because you absolutely have to fill the funnel if you want to be successful. Unless your budget is small, your team is small, and you have a lot of confidence that you can maintain a core player base from moment one, which I don't know who would be able to do that right now. But we're a smaller team, and our budget's smaller, and our game is smaller, and we're going to get a core player base that sticks with us from moment one. You don't get a core, I don't think you get a core user base without a big funnel. The big funnel fills, and then, 3 months later, you have your core that's going to keep playing if your game was good enough, compelling enough, or met elements of the market's demands. You're never going to get to that core user base if you charge from moment one. Helldivers isn't the exception because it's PvE. If you bring your PvE game to market and you're like, yeah, it's free to play, I'm immediately going to think, can't wait for your pay to progress bottlenecks or your gacha mechanics, right? Like with the First Descendant, I feel like they've been pretty good about their monetization, but you still are monetizing that game off of, pay to progress, but they don't seem to be bottlenecking progress. I think they're also seeing they can make a ton of money by, selling booty. I said from the very beginning, I think First Descendant could make way more money if they just sold Stellar Blade style skins. I think there's more money to be made there. It doesn't seem like they've tried to implement a bunch of bottlenecks that they can monetize, which they could do at any time, obviously, but it always makes me concerned. Like, the First Descendant hasn't crossed any of those lines, but they certainly could. They certainly could. I would rather buy a paid game than play a free microtransaction-filled garbage. I genuinely don't care if it's just cosmetics. But my concern is that's rarely how you set those games up. Right? Like if it's a Genshin Impact, or if it's a Zenless Zone Zero, or if it's any of those titles, I'm always worried you're going to start to butt into and brush up against gacha mechanics, or gambling mechanics with pity, so then you're creating sunk cost from the first dollar spent. I don't like that. I don't support that type of monetization. I don't mind cosmetics. If you want to make a game, like, what's that Wayfinder game? Let's just imagine that game ends up being, I don't know if this is their plan or not. Let's just say hypothetically they go free to play. If all they sell are cosmetics and like seasonal content or battle passes, I don't care. That doesn't bother me at all. But the minute you start to put in, gacha mechanics or, pay to progress mechanics, I'm immediately worried. It's like, okay, pay to progress doesn't bother me, but it quickly can lead to arbitrary and manufactured bottlenecks. And then, hey, we're really sorry that this is taking a long time. We're the ones that made it take a long time. But hey, you could pay. It'd be like going to the airport and they're like, we're really sorry that the line through security is 8 hours long because we have two people working and the one guy keeps falling asleep. We're really sorry about that. We literally made this a bottleneck. You can pay money to go through this expedited line. Like, that's what it would feel like. It's like, you're the ones that did this. What do you mean? Like, you set the game up this way. Wayfinder was free to play and now it's $25 with no microtransactions. Oh, is that really? Didn't they just announce? I think they're about to do a beta on the PlayStation 5. I'm actually really interested to see how that game ends up feeling. I'm gonna wait until like it officially launches and I'll check it out. I'm hearing good things from people, so Your free-to-play single-player concerns, Lono, are mine for my general free-to-play concerns. I'm good with paying for games. I don't want to play something that's intended to lock me out of stuff. My only pushback on what you said, Corey, is I think the current market reality is that if you want to build a PvP game, you have to make it free-to-play. I'm not advocating for that. I'm not saying that that's good. I'm saying that's the reality. If you enter the market with like high ideals and you don't think about the realities of like what the market's going to do to you, you are setting yourself up for failure. If you're like, well, no, I am ideologically opposed to free to play, so our PvP game is going to be $50. Good luck. Good luck. Theme parks make queues long and slow and charge you to fast track. Theme parks don't make queues long and slow, homie. That's an emergent property of how many people showed up that day. The roller coaster can only go so fast. You can only get people off and on the roller coaster so fast. I've never been to a theme park that like intentionally runs the roller coaster and then makes it just sit there for 5 minutes. And they're like, yeah, we want the line to get long. We're trying to get that fast pass money. No. Theme parks having long lines are an organic reality. It's just a matter of how many people are there that day and how many people happen to line up at that moment in time. They're not manufacturing long lines at theme parks. It's just that's what's going to happen. Like, the roller coaster is going to only go so fast. It's going to come back. You're going to have people get off, people get on, and you're going to run it again. Believe me, if they could expedite that process at all, they would, because they want you on the rides, back in line, on the rides, back in line. They don't want you standing in line for exorbitant amounts of time, because then you're less likely to buy products, drinks, food, and souvenirs. You're just stuck in a queue. They have a vested interest into getting you on the ride and off the ride. Oh, you're talking to somebody else, King Slayer. I thought you were talking to me. Dark Taco with 23 months. My man, thank you so much. Got us up to 14 on the day. We're 11 away from the first 25 of the week where I have to give 5 back. Why don't they just build another copy of the roller coaster? My objection to that is Call of Duty has done it and continues to do it. No, that's not true at all. Come on, Corey, come on. Call of Duty has created a Leviathan with Warzone, which is directly related to the purchase incentive of their annual release. Come on, brother. You're not wrong. Historically, Call of Duty did this, but look at what Call of Duty did. If the king of the castle had to adapt to the landscape by offering a free-to-play battle royale, if they had to adapt, what hope does anybody else have? Do you see my logic? Even Call of Duty had to adapt and say, listen, if we want to have a presence in this market, we got to make a battle royale that's free to play. And there are massive incentives to buy the annual purchase at $70 directly linked to Warzone. Call of Duty was releasing yearly games for 15 years before Warzone. Right. What do you think changed their strategy? The market changed. They'd still be doing that if Warzone was never made? Are you accidentally arguing for my side, Eugene? They'd still be doing that if Warzone was never made. Why do you think Warzone was made? Why? Just hazard a guess. They made Warzone because the market shifted. Fortnite changed things. It literally is a market disruptive anomaly. Like, Fortnite came in and completely changed player expectations, player desires. Like, the hive mind of the player now thinks completely differently about these types of games, and Call of Duty adapted to that. And they're also being very shrewd businessmen. They're like, we're going to make a ton of money. Are you kidding me? You think we're going to let them be the king of the Battle Royale castle? No, we're going to come to the market with our own. We're going to go make some money out there too. They made Warzone to sell skins. What? Why did you type that? What do you mean? What do you mean they made Warzone to sell skins? They adapted to the market. The market said, if you make a free-to-play Battle Royale, people will come and try it out. And they're like, well, we're Call of Duty, dadgummit. We're going to make one. And they did. And now they directly link purchase incentive of their annual game to Warzone. If the format of selling a yearly PvP game was a winning strategy, Call of Duty wouldn't link it to Warzone. The yearly titles were still extremely popular and hugely profitable. Okay, so a long-standing franchise was still making good money. You're not proving the point. You're not proving the point. They were having a decline of retail sales of their games after, what was it, after Black Ops 3, were they not? Weren't they starting to see a decline? They're still making tons of money. Even Vanguard, I think, was one of their lower selling games, and it still sold incredibly well. It was like one of the number one games that year. That doesn't matter. They adapted to the expectations in the market, and they said, listen, we have absolutely got to go out here and give people a free-to-play option. They just posted an important update on Concord. Boy, when I choose to time things, I had no idea they were doing this. Let's read it. Let's read it. Concord fans, we've been listening closely to your feedback since the launch of Concord on PlayStation and PC, and want to thank everyone who has joined the journey aboard the North Star. Your support and the passionate community that has grown around the game has meant the world to us. However, while many qualities of the experience resonated with players, we also recognize that other aspects of the game and our initial launch didn't land the way we'd intended. Therefore, at this time, we have decided to take the game offline beginning September 6, 2024, and explore options, including those to better reach our players. While we determine the best path ahead, Concord sales will cease immediately, and we will begin to offer a full refund for all gamers who have purchased the game on PS5 and PC. If you purchase the game for PlayStation 5 from the PlayStation Store or PlayStation Direct, a refund will be issued back to your original payment method. Holy frick! Has they ever done this before, ever? They're just automatically going to refund me? I bought the game so I could play the closed beta. Holy crap. This is unprecedented. They're basically like, shut it down and give people their money back. That's crazy. I don't think free-to-play could save this game. I think you have to turn it into a PvE game. I'm telling you. Customers who purchase from other storefronts will also be refunded. More information about refunds from Steam and Epic can be found below. Steam Store will refund players who bought the game over the coming days. Steam will send confirmation of the refund once it's processed. Epic Game Store. Epic Game Store will refund players who bought the game over the coming days and will contact each customer directly and confirm that the refund has been processed. Other retailer refunds. For customers who have purchased a physical copy at a retailer location outside of PlayStation directly, please refer to the refund process of the retailer you purchased. Oh, see, you're not going to get your money back if you bought it from a physical store. Once refunded, players will no longer have access to the game. We'll keep you updated, and thank you again for all the free gunners who joined us. Refunds for the PlayStation Store and PlayStation Direct purchases may take 30 to 60 days to appear on your bank statement. If your original payment source was unavailable, the purchase amount will be refunded to your PSN wallet. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Lonostradamus? I didn't predict that they were going to do this. This is nuts. I mean, listen. Mad props to PlayStation for just doing right by the consumer. They're like, this didn't go anywhere. You guys can all get your money back. I mean, I got respect for that. That's impressive. To be like, listen, boys, we messed up. This is bad. And we're shutting it down to figure out a way forward. And you get your money back. That I got nothing but respect for that. That's exactly how you treat the customer. You're like, listen, we made a bad call. We launched a bad product. And we're going to give you your money back. That's mad respect for them doing that. Because if they just shut the game down and they're like, we can't really support it anymore, all the people who bought the game are going to be like, huh? What? Accountability, integrity, consumer friendliness. This is just awkward. I got respect for that, dude. I got news for you. Bungie's in a meeting right now about what do we do with Marathon. I'm telling you, they're related. They're not bedfellows. They're not brother and sister. They're not twins, but they're cousins. Concord and Marathon are cousins. And I'm here to tell you, Bungie's having meetings today. They're having meetings right now about Marathon. You watch. September the 6th, that's 3 days away. Goodness gracious, dude. I don't think I've ever seen a company do this before. Shutting the game down that fast and then being like, we're just going to give you your money back. Let me get the PlayStation blog. Hang on a second. Let's get a tweet out. This is pretty big. I can't believe that they're just giving the money back, too. I thought maybe they would do like we're going to switch the game to hiatus. You know? I don't know if I can get a good screenshot of this. Let's just do that. Because if you like post a link, like Twitter like basically sequesters the tweet and like no one frickin' sees it. Whatever. Let me try and get a bigger snapshot. Same day as the Astrobot launch. Yeah, I mean, they're basically like, to me, it's almost like they're trying to cleanse the palate. It's like, listen, man, we've got to cleanse the palate here. This is a bad look right now. You know, if they're getting ready to not just launch Astrobot, but to like make other announcements, that's kind of a big deal. Like, you're like, listen, this is just putting so much stink on the brand right now. We got to get this thing the frick out of here. Like, I get it. It's like I said this morning, I was like, you can't just keep trotting games like this out and be like, well, hopefully people like it, you know? That's not going to work. You've got to be able to say that, you know, people can have confidence in your live service games. And I think that's really hard to do when you've literally got people, buying a game that then they can't even get into matches. It's like, dude, nobody's gonna check out your dadgum game if, you know, your future live service games, that is, if you can't figure it out. It's like, if they just keep launching live service games and they're like, yeah, you know, we think this one's good, we think this one's good, and they keep struggling, then your future live service games are just going to suffer the same fate. Everyone's going to be like, I'm not buying that. That's a PlayStation live service game. And PlayStation live service games are trash. That's what people are going to say. I mean, they basically are taking the best path forward that you could even take in a crappy situation. Unprecedented. Concord is shutting down and everyone is getting automatic refunds. And almost everyone. Unprecedented. Concord is shutting down and almost everyone is getting automatic refunds. Like, almost everybody. They want it all to disappear. Concord who? Well, yeah, I mean, sure. Do you really want this game in the headlines of like, no players, no player base, dying game, dead game, and they're like, hey, everybody, Astrobot is here. Hey, everybody, we're going to do a state of play and announce the PS5 Pro. It's like, you don't want to do that. You've got the stink of Concord on the ground. So being able to walk out and be like, listen, we launched a stinker. We're real sorry about that. Almost everybody's getting their money back. We're shutting the game down. You know? Yeah, the people who bought it physically, I feel pretty bad for. I feel bad for them because, like, you're not going to be able to go to, like, Target or Best Buy or GameStop and get your money back. You know? I think that's a bummer. I think those people have a right to be like, hey, you know, what the frick's going on here? What am I supposed to do? Astrobot's not taking away the stink. Get ready for Concord Part 2 with Marathon. I mean, Marathon's not even close to releasing, so I'm not sure why you would think that. Astrobot's launching this week. Johnson said the same thing. It feels unprecedented. Because it is unprecedented. This has never happened before. I've never seen a game launch, fail so miserably, and the company be like, hey, our bad. We're giving you your money back. Like, who has ever done this? Other than the day before, but that was a fake game, and they were trying to, you know, trick everybody. That was different. Kel Swiss with 19 months. Concord shutting down at the same time. Another PvP game, Spectre Divide's coming out. We are in the golden era of video games, survival of the fittest. Thank you so much. That bumps the line to 15. We're a 10 bomb away from the first 25 of the week. You guys need to kick it into high gear. Astrobot flops. I don't know why anybody would think that Astrobot's going to flop. I think that game's going to be very successful. Yeah, they turned off replies on the tweet. Concord, more like pulled the cord. We certainly picked a good day to cover Concord, didn't we? Didn't we? The sheer luck that sometimes happens in this industry. I was like, let's wait. We wanted to cover all the Gamescom stuff. And then Star Wars came out, and I was like, we can't cover Concord yet. I was like, we have to wait. And then the sales came, and I was like, okay, we can cover it now. This is a complete and utter commercial disaster. And PlayStation walks in the room and is like, we're going to do you a solid, buddy. We're going to do you a solid. Oh, man. You got someone on the inside? I totally don't. I wish I did. It would certainly help with some of my videos and some of my live streams. I would know when to do what. I got lucky on this one, dude. Because last week, it was basically like I just didn't have a place to put it. We were literally going from Gamescom to Gamescom to Gamescom. Then Star Wars comes out. Then the Call of Duty event. Then Nintendo Direct. And then it was like, then the Christopher Barrett thing happened with Marathon. And I'm like, how am I not going to talk about that and talk about this game flopped? This game that I said was going to flopped. It was like, I couldn't justify ignoring Gamescom, Star Wars, Call of Duty, Nintendo Direct, and Christopher Barrett being a predator. It's like, well, we've got bigger fish to fry. And I said, I was like, I want to circle back. I think doing sort of a retrospective on why Concord flopped will serve us well. I think it'll be a good video. And I don't know if Creature was iffy on it. I think he was iffy on it because when he was looking for gameplay last night, he was like, this game is cooked. Like, he couldn't find any gameplay footage on YouTube. I think he was probably nervous about being like, we might not have any footing for this video because like everybody's just moved on. And dude, once people move on and you make your video, it can be really hard to get people to care. They're like, dude, who cares about Concord? Change your title to Concord Flopped, What's Next? Oh, it's dead. The Concord controllers are still up for sale. That's rough. Well, if you guys are just tuning in, we did decide to cover this today, and I've got a video up right now called Why It Flopped, Concord Why It Flopped, so be sure to check that out. And we obviously can keep talking and keep hanging out. Let's set our sights on hitting the next like milestone. Let's hit 400 likes. Let's set our sights on let's try to get the first 100 members of the week. I'll throw a little incentive out there. I'm going to throw a little incentive out there because we took a day off, and that kind of puts us behind. If you guys can get this to 100 members today to get us ahead, to get us back on pace, I will drop a 50 bomb. Instead of the 20, I'll owe you 20 members. But if you guys can get this to 100 members, let's throw down the gauntlet. Let's have a bit of a scramble here for members. Let's welcome all these new people in that tuned in today and keep smashing like. This is one of those lucky moments where it's like, yeah, let's wait to cover that, and then everything kind of lines up for us. Is Fair Games and Marathon next? I mean, I've already made videos basically saying, I have a video saying, just cancel Marathon. And then I have another video that says Marathon is cooked. So I don't think I need to make another video about Marathon. I've argued my case. I've argued my case that, like, I've argued to cancel Marathon, and I've argued that game's freaking cooked. Likely waiting on a sale unless the reviews are just out of this world. On your flop video, can you add a bit at the end of the video about the refunds? You could do it like Unsolved Mysteries update. I can't add to a video that's already been uploaded, homie. Fat Lump says, let's get the train started, and he gifts a member. Let's go, boys. Let's go. You guys hit 100 today. I'm dropping a 50 bomb. I usually only do 5 every 25. You didn't even know about Fair Games until Barrier told you? WB should have done this with Kill the Justice League. They probably didn't have a choice given the licensed property that's attached to it. Cross-eyed 10-4 just became a member. That adds to the count. If you decide you like the content here, be sure to upgrade to Member Plus so you get into the extra content and help us with that milestone. So the $5 tier is basically the gifted tier. So try out the content, try out our Discord. You'll get to come to the writer's room, morning coffee. And if you decide that you really like it here, you can bump up for $1 and get into even more. So we welcome in new members, and we welcome back Shelly. Me and my friends were actually enjoying Concord, literally playing it when the maintenance popped up 20 minutes ago. Fun game, going free to play, I guess. Multiverses. I don't think it's going to go free to play. I don't. You know what I hope? This is what I hope for Concord. I hope that somewhere along the line, they were building PvE content of a sort, and they bring that out of the box and say, let's make a game like this. Make like an extraction looter shooter, because the characters feel good, the movement feels good. I don't like some of the character design, but some of the characters I think are pretty cool. Not all of them, but some of them. Yo, a 5-bomb from Delta Boss takes us to 22 members on the day, and then it's going to bump to 23 because Hilly renews his member plus. I think you're wrong about Arena Hero shooters. It's not like they fail so bad Sony flushes them down the toilet, is it? Well played, Hilberg. Well played, dude. Appreciate you, man. My goodness. What's next? Bungie Marathon's next. I actually thought about that. I thought, you know, the title, Concord Flopped, what's next? It's almost asking, like, what's next for Concord, but also, like, what's next? What's the next game that's going to flop? I thought the title was, like, a good double entendre. And a single gift that comes in from Joker Quinn. Thank you so much. Getting us to 24. Yeah, Concord's dead in 3 days. They do have a bunch of lead PvE designers and such. They do. Belphegor with the 5-bomb. That's an Agent of Chaos, and it takes us to 29. We've got a bit of a gauntlet going today, guys. We took a day off yesterday. I just hung out with the members in morning coffee. If you want to get us to 100 members right now, if this number hits 100, I drop a 50-bomb. Let's get a bunch of more people in the door and just keep growing this community. And continue to consider upgrading your membership to Member Plus or VIP. We're currently at 530 people at Member Plus and above. When that number hits 600, I have to play the Date Everything game, and then I'll do another IRL stream on the weekend with you guys. Raven gifts a member and sets us up nicely with 30 members total. And a 20-bomb comes in from Delta, and he says, let's just get halfway there. And he takes the 30 and he turns it into a 50. Thank you, Murph Dog. We've already read the blog post. The important update on Concord. Appreciate you putting that in the Discord. Yeah, we already read through it. Yeah, it's an oof, but it's not just an oof. It's like, I respect the fact that they're giving people their money back. It's like they're just saying the game didn't do it. It didn't make it. You know what I mean? Didn't pull it off. Yeah, I'm curious what the consensus is going to be from the people that were liking it. Nova Hands with 33 months. I watched some D2 creators lately, and it's comical how far ahead of them you are with content, adapting to Destiny 2 tanking, and reading the overall market. I appreciate that. My goal has never been to outdo them. My goal has always just been to give people the best content that I can. You know, my goal has always been to adapt and evolve with the market, with what I feel like is good content and with what I feel like people are going to listen to, you know. Given the new era of people going back to multi-streaming and being on Twitch and YouTube, it would be really, really great if we were in that position, but, you know. I'm really, really curious what people are going to say that were, like, defending the game, enjoying the game, you know. It's like, I try to tell people, it's like, no matter how you try to defend this game's user score on PlayStation, because, like, oh, the demo scores are in there. It's like, that doesn't matter. That's still a representation, you know. That's a representation of what people thought of the game. They played the demo and said, burn, and they're not coming back. Well, it wasn't the full game. Who gives a frick? Who cares? Who cares? Multi-streaming is for the weak. I don't agree with that at all. We do stuff the hard way around here. Oh, I see you're joking. That's right. We do it the hard way, bro. If you guys are just tuning in, we're well aware of what they're doing with Concord. I have an upload today about Concord flopping. I try to basically assess what happened and the way forward for PlayStation Live service games. We are aware of what they're doing. They pushed out the blog post. We were nearing the end of this show. I'm going to extend a little bit. Right now, we do have an incentive running where if you guys can get this to be 100 members, right now it's at 50 out of the 500 weekly goal. If you can get that to 100, I will drop a 50 bomb of members to say thank you, and then we'll go hang out in the writer's room. And then also, let's try to get 400 likes on the video. If you've coming in, you're enjoying the vibes. I'm a safe for work broadcaster. I stream Monday through Friday. I also try to do uploads every single day. And people typically treat me like a podcast, almost like a radio show. They throw me on in the background of their day, and they just kind of listen to the show as I cover a variety of gaming topics Monday through Friday. So make sure you hit subscribe, the bell button, the like button. And if you consider picking up your own membership, make sure you pick Member Plus. The standard $5 member tier is largely designed for the gifted members. They get to sort of sample a large portion of the extra content that we do. Yeah, Doomslayer, it is really unprecedented. At two levels, it's unprecedented. It's unprecedented for a company to basically come out and say, this game ain't it. This is so bad, we're shutting it down. And then they go one step beyond that. And they're like, we're giving everybody their money back, except for the people who bought physical from a non-PlayStation store. Like, that's crazy to me. Like, that is absolutely crazy. I don't think I've ever seen a company do that. Like, unless you bought a physical copy from like Target, Best Buy, GameStop, something like that, Amazon, even then you might be able to get your money back. Well, probably not. Their standard return policies are basically gonna stonewall you. But I think you should be able to, given that the servers are being taken offline. They have to give the money back. That's not by choice. Yeah, but Paul, they could have kept the game going for how long? And then why do they have to give you your money back? What do you think the threshold is? Like if they let the game run for 6 months and then they shut it down? Yeah, they're refunding people. Like, I bought the game. I'm automatically going to get my money back. I bought the game so I could play the closed beta. I just ordered my Concord controller. Maybe it's a collector's piece. You know, funny enough as it is, I actually think that yes. Like, I don't think they have to offer people refunds. They could have kept the game going for 3 months and then just been like, yeah, there's nobody playing, we're shutting it down, sorry. And then just quietly shoved it under the rug somewhere. It's not by choice after 2 weeks. Well, no, it is by choice after 2 weeks, Paul. You're looking at this entire situation upside down. They could have just let the game go dormant on its own, and after like 30 to 60 days, they could have been like, in light of the current player base numbers, we've made the hard decision to shut the game down. And then that'd have been the end of the matter. They're shutting it down now because they're like, we might be able to put this thing into a position of being a product worth playing. And the only way we do that is we do it now. Kill it now and try to do something with this. I'm expecting that in 20 years, the Concord line of controllers is going to be the premium tier of Sony controllers, and none of the kids we know where they're not going to know where the name came from. That's right. It's completely shocking that every YouTube gaming channel predicted Concord to massively flop, and they were right. It's so rare for the gaming channels to be right. No, I do not have my Astrobot controller yet. And a 50 bomb from Delta Boss. Unbelievable. This guy's coming in huge and ensuring that we hit the gauntlet that I threw down today. MASH has his match in Delta Boss 429 as he has absolutely dropped bombs on the chat today. 75 total members from Delta Boss alone. I now owe you guys a 50 bomb. That's absolutely insane. And if you guys want to upgrade to Member Plus, be sure to do that. That gifted membership is good for an entire month. And if you like the content and what we're doing here, be sure to get into the Discord. Be sure to hit subscribe on the channel so you don't miss future content. You don't miss future uploads. We cover gaming news and topics all across the spectrum. I think tomorrow is going to be about Xbox because there's just been a barrage of bad news for them as well. And then Thursday will be an Astrobot review roundup, and then Friday we'll be playing Astrobot. And my wife hates platforming, so maybe the stretch goal this week should be making Madam play Astrobot. She hates games with jumping. Anthony says, don't forget to press the like button. He says, we're only 30 away from 400. Thank you, Anthony. To be honest, Concord can only be salvaged if it's rebooted a year from now from the ground up with a better style, free-to-play model, faster-paced gameplay. If you want to double down on this, I think doubling down on the PvP hero shooter format is a complete fool's errand. I think they should turn it into a PvE extraction game with loot. You know how to make good guns. There's plenty of good guns in the game. Start right now and create a loot pool for each character, you know. And MASH with the 20 bomb says, if you think I'm sitting this one out, you're crazy, and takes the member count even higher on the day. We missed Monday, but we're coming back strong, and we're coming back tall right now. Thank you so much, MASH. I owe you guys a 50 bomb for hitting the 100. That was the gauntlet that I threw down. So thank you so much for making that possible. And then OG is going to bump us past 120 to 121 by renewing OG DSB, renewing their member plus. Thank you so much for doing that. Those devs don't want to make that game? Okay, fine. Then shelve the whole damn thing. Just shelve it. And another 20 bomb from MASH as he does his own 20 bomb member train. This guy says, you're not outdoing me, brother. He's stepping up to the plate to go toe-to-toe with Delta Boss, and a single gifted comes in from Joker Quinn. Thank you so much. Give the game to somebody else? Yeah, give the game to somebody else then. No one wants this. You can't turn, tuck, tail, and run and refund people and say, nobody wanted this 5v5 hero shooter. Let's come back in a year and give them another one, and what, this time it's free? That's not going to change anything. Concord's pronouns became was, were. Oh, that's mean. Come on. Russell says, Lono, do you think this refund happened mostly because of Sony's future live service goals? Players would be hesitant to purchase a live service game with no refund? I think it's all wrapped up in one big thing, Russell. We got Astrobot coming this week, the likelihood of a State of Play announcement this week, a State of Play announcing PS5 Pro, a huge presence at Tokyo Game Show. They needed to get this thing off the freaking table. Just get it out of here. We got to cleanse the palate. This is not what we need right now. They're looking to enter the second half of this generation strong, and Concord looked terrible on the docket. It was like, get this out of here. Get it out of here. It's also related to what you're saying, Russell. I said it earlier. Donnie and I had a bit of a back and forth. We agree, but kind of don't fully agree, because I was like, cancel Fair Games, cancel Marathon. And my argument is simple. Those games look similarly completely lacking in demand. Why bring them to market? If they come to market and they fail, the confidence from the consumer in a PlayStation Live service game is going to be in the toilet. Right now, if they do this and they do it quick, the memory will simply be, Helldivers was great. With enough time, Concord will drift from memory. Not even that many people downloaded, played it, or bought it. So it didn't impact that many consumers, thank goodness, right? Estimates of like 25,000 copies sold. That's not making much of an impact. Helldivers, on the other hand, sold like gangbusters. So the general public 6 months from now is going to be like, yeah, PlayStation makes pretty good live service games, dude. Helldivers is fun. I still play it every once in a while. I still go back every once in a while. I had a fun time with Helldivers. Concord will be a distant memory in 6 months. Not even that many people played the dadgum thing. So they're minimizing the damage. Like, get this the frick out of here. It's the right call. It's the right call. Drastic times call for drastic measures, and that game was going to do nothing but stink up the joint. Everyone was going to be saying, ugh, Concord, ugh, PlayStation Live Service games, ugh. Like, that was going to be the vibe, and justifiably so. They seemed completely out of touch. They seem completely out of touch. It's like it's 2024, and this is what you brought to the market? You think this is a relevant product? That's not what you want the consumers to think. Like you're some old fuddy-duddy, you know, being like, hello, fellow kids. Don't forget to keep your physical copy. That $40 will be a fortune in 10 years. Right, Donnie? All the guys that are like, I can't return my physical copy to Target or to Walmart. Dude, just keep it. Just keep it. It'll be worth money one day. Everything recently on Helldivers 2 is negative due to poor developer decisions. I would think that the general public, mediocre Milton, is not caught up. They're not caught up in the nerfing complaints and the negativity. A lot of them played it, had fun, and moved on. That's what you want. Trust me on this. John Q. Public had a bunch of fun with Helldivers and is now playing something else. They're probably playing Call of Duty. They're probably playing Apex. They're probably playing something else. The vast majority of the people who purchased Helldivers 2 had a good experience and have put the game down. That's what you want. Concord's just out here hanging around being like, hey, I'm trash. Like, you know what I mean? Firewalk Studios. We wanted to share an important update about Concord. The amount of copium in the Discord's crazy. Member Plus from Mike S. takes us to 143. 143. There it is. I owe you guys 50. I owe you guys 50. Should we do another one? Should we do another gauntlet? Should we try to get to 200 members? Two years on a game in the EU. Products that require software to function. Specific rules apply when you buy digital content like videos, music, and software apps such as a video game that you download once, weekly links to a news website for which you pay a subscription fee, continuous supply of cloud storage. These rules also apply when you provide your personal data in exchange for the content or service. This includes photos and social media posts that are processed with your consent. You will always have a right to a minimum 2-year guarantee if the digital content or service turns out to be faulty, not as advertised, or not working as expected. If the supplier can't fix the content or service within a reasonable time, free of charge and without inconvenience to you, you can ask for a reduction in the price. In some cases, you can terminate the contract. Yeah, they don't have to offer a refund. According to this verbiage, Paul, you have a right to ask for some money back. It says you can ask for a reduction in the price. In some cases, you can terminate the contract. They do not have to offer refunds. That's not true. That verbiage doesn't indicate they have to. I think they're doing the right thing. I think they would have been facing a potential problem of people saying, you killed this game so fast, I didn't get my money's worth. Like I said, they could have let the dadgum thing drift and die, and in 6 months' time be like, nobody's playing, we're shutting the servers down. Yeah, COD Lover, we're talking about how the game's shutting down, yeah, and they're refunding people their money back. It's repair, replace, or give a full or partial refund. That's not what the quote that you just sent me said, though. Do you have another section that says that? It doesn't say that. You always have the right to a minimum 2-year guarantee if the digital content or service turns out to be faulty, not as advertised, or not working as protected. If the supplier can't fix the content or service in a reasonable time, free of charge, and without inconvenience to you, you can ask for a reduction in the price. In some cases, you can terminate the contract. I do not think that applies in this situation. That like, well, they couldn't keep the game going for 2 years, so you have a right to a refund. What about Splitgate? Did Splitgate cost any money? Or was it was free to play, wasn't it? There's got to be other games that haven't lasted for 2 years. There's got to be plenty of games that haven't lasted for 2 years. Do all those people get their money back? Are they guaranteed the money back? Under EU rules, a seller must repair, replace, or give a full or partial refund if something you buy turns out to be faulty or doesn't work as advertised. You always have a right to a minimum 2-year guarantee. You have a right to a minimum 2-year guarantee at no cost. However, national rules in your country may give you extra protection. You can return any purchase within 14 days without justification. See 14 cooling off period. After 14 days, you can usually only ask for a partial or full refund if it's not possible to repair or replace the goods. So in this case, that would apply, right? It's not possible to repair or replace it. Like, they're literally shutting it down. Mr. Johnson with the member plus, that adds to the count. Thank you so much. Like, to me, doesn't that mean there have to be other games that didn't make it 2 years? There's nothing wrong with the game. They're shutting the servers down. You won't be able to play it. That's faulty, is it not? The game is going to be something that you simply cannot engage with. My question is, are there not other games that have ended before 2 years? There's got to be other games that launched like this that didn't make it. There have to be. No, Redfall you can still play. Paragon, and then they refunded. Okay. Are there any other examples? So we know Paragon shut down and people got refunds. Yeah, they refunded the byte back. Well, they refunded the byte back because they're not going to make the content. You bought something that you're not going to get. Did they shut down the servers for Destruction All-Stars? Has it been shut down entirely? Thing with the EU refund, says Greg, is that they delivered a working product and they accepted a license agreement which essentially says it may shut down. The faulty thing really applies with physical products, not digital. Yeah, Greg's offering some good pushback here. Yeah, what about Multiverses? Multiverses assured people they would come back, right? But they shut down and you couldn't play the game for how long? Yeah, Lawbreakers. Did people get refunds on Lawbreakers? I don't think they did. Lawbreakers issuing refunds. I'm not seeing any indication that they gave people their money back on Lawbreakers. Yeah, how long were the Battleborn servers up? When did they shut down the Battleborn servers? Battleborn servers shut down for good. Oh, that was 5 years after launch. Okay, never mind. Apex Mobile, it's free to play, is it not? It really is if the dev or the publisher is willing to do it because they feel bad. It's different if the product simply fails because that's not the fault of the company. Yeah, Battleborn servers shut down 5 years later, so that's not applicable. That's not an analogy to what we're looking for. We're looking for other games that completely shut down. Did they have to offer refunds? Babylon's Fall only lasted 1 year. That was a paid game. So those have been completely shut down, right? Okay, Babylon's Fall, refund. Did people get refunds? Square Enix is shutting down Echoes of Mana less than a year after its launch. That's another game that shut down that fast. I don't know if that one costs money. Fans are furious that as a $60 game announces it's going offline 6 months after launch. Babylon's Fall. The player base was so low at some points that only there was one player online. He said, I'm devastated, just in complete shock. It's not right that the company can do this. Just take something away that I hold dear. Those who have previously purchased the game will be unable to get a refund despite the game's short lifespan. I think you're incorrect, Paul. Babylon's Fall didn't even make it a year and they didn't issue people refunds. I don't think you're correct. I think Greg is correct. you are accepting a license that quite literally says we may shut down the servers at any point in time, and then you don't get access. People didn't get refunds for Babylon's Fall because Steam's TOS apparently. Wasn't Babylon's Fall also on PlayStation though? I feel like I installed it and tried to play it. I don't think you're correct, Paul. I don't think PlayStation is doing this because they have to. We have evidence of other games that have shut down in a short period of time and did not issue refunds. They didn't make it to the 2-year mark. They could have gotten a refund in the EU if they pushed for it. So people living in the EU could have basically requested one according to the rules. But like, you're making it sound like PlayStation has to. It sounds to me like anybody living in the EU has a legal route to a refund if a live service game shuts down before 2 years. But I'm telling you, you're still going to get snagged by the TOS every time. They're going to say, user agreement that you agreed to stated that we could do this. You agreed to that. I wouldn't be surprised at all if the EULA for these games quite literally stipulates that you surrender your right to a refund if they have to shut the servers down, you know, a year from now or whatever. Maybe don't even specify a time. Jason Schreier says, every time a live service game with no hook or strong word of mouth fails to penetrate an oversaturated market, the most annoying people on the planet will be there to blame diversity. Right. Like, that's why this game failed. A complete and utter commercial failure. And it's gone. Yup. Literally the worst I've heard an SMSMB take off the processing. Why are people commenting on my microphone lately? Like, we're not doing anything to the audio post-processing, are we, creature? This guy said, literally the worst I've ever heard an SM7B take off the processing. I don't do anything to my microphone. It goes through a cloud lifter, an analog mixer, and then a Focusrite preamp. This is why I'm lukewarm on live service. Why didn't you mention anything about the huge DEI problem or the defensive developers? I don't know. This video ignored very huge issues. Because that's not why this game failed. The EULA has been declared unenforceable in the UK, possibly also EU, in numerous court cases because it too heavily one-sides and doesn't give the consumer any protection or a service level. Yeah, I mean, I'm with you guys on the hesitancy with live service games. Certainly. This is why I think they should cancel Marathon, cancel Fair Games, and start launching smaller incubated projects in early access to get consumer feedback. I don't do anything to the audio that would affect its overall sound. I peak monitor, nothing else. Yeah, peak monitoring wouldn't make him say what he's saying. You're not like running it through a filter or an EQ or anything. You definitely don't want to run it through an EQ because it already is. I don't know if maybe that's happening, but I've never listened to one of my uploads and thought something sounds wrong. I feel like they sound just like the live streams. There was a secret level episode on Concord. Oh, I say let it go. There's no reason to cancel the episode based on it. I mean, unless they think that'll damage, you know, secret level as a piece of property. The mic sounds okay. I mean, that's just his voice, guys. Lono sounds like this all the time. All right. I owe you guys a 50 bomb, and I'm going to give you 10 minutes. I'm going to give you 10 minutes to do it again. If you guys can get this to 200, I'll drop 2. I'll drop 1 today and 1 tomorrow. If I try to do 2 in one day, I'll get blocked. But I'll drop a 50 bomb today and a 50 bomb tomorrow. If you guys can get this to 200 members, I'm going to drop one more gauntlet on you. You got 10 minutes to do it. I'm scheduling the writer's room right now. You guys are crushing it. Feels good to have an upload and to be bouncing back just this fast after taking a big break from doing uploads because of Gamescom and Star Wars and the Nintendo Direct. So thank you guys so much. And thank you to people upgrading. We're to 532 on Member Plus and above. So thank you to the people that continue to upgrade to Member Plus and VIP. No refund for Babylon's Fall. Glad Concord's doing refunds means that they probably have the intention of going free to play, come back like Multiverses. I don't think Concord can come back as it stands as free to play and make a difference. I just don't think people want the game. I think in general that's the problem. I don't think the problem is, oh, it's $40. No, when the game was free on Steam and free on PlayStation, nobody was like, oh, this is great. I just wish it was free. Like, that was never... The consensus was never like, well, Concord would have a shot if it was free. The consensus was nobody wants this. They're hinting at a re-release as free to play. Okay, listen to me now. If they were going to re-release it as free to play, they would do that right now and offer refunds. They're not... I don't think that's the solution. That game doesn't suddenly become in demand because it's free. It's a game out of time. It landed 5 years too late. Nobody wants to play it. It doesn't matter if you make it free to play. It doesn't. If that's their crack squad idea, then I have even more doubts in their ability to assess what's needed to competitively enter the live service landscape. And a 10 bomb from British. He says, let's go, boys. Let's get the double. Let's get the double 50 bomb from Lono, 154. And a 20 bomb from MASH takes us to 174. This man's making it real easy on you guys. Amazing. MASH coming in and doing 60 total members on the day. We got 75 total members from Delta Boss. Just absolutely massive day from you guys. Jez Corden says, Concord's not a bad game, wasn't a buggy game. Seems the idea that you can make a wildly successful premium multiplayer game this side of Call of Duty is probably just impossible in today's market. Hope Sony sticks it out and gives a free-to-play pivot to find its audience. No. I do not agree with Jez. Sometimes I agree with him, sometimes I don't. This is one of those times I don't agree with him. I don't think that would make a bit of difference. And Broken Lobo with the single gift that takes us to 175. Thank you so much. I think Lobo got a gifted in there and is now paying it forward and gifting another. Yep, he says paying it forward. If you got a gifted member and you're like, I can afford a membership, gift one, pay it forward to somebody else. Let somebody else get in the pool of gifted members. Thank you guys so much. A free turd is still a turd? Yeah, nope. This is not a question of free to play versus purchase. It's a question of a product that is not in demand. And a 5 bomb from Sal. Welcome in. Taking us to 180. Boom. Eugene says, I think the blog is signaling they're going to rework and bring it back. Rework, I think, is the key there, Eugene. I don't think the game as it currently exists has any demand. It's not about free to play versus price. It's a game that nobody wants. I opened my video this morning with that. Concord, a game that seemingly nobody wanted. That was the issue. Nobody balked at the price point the day the trailer dropped. The day the trailer dropped, people were like, what? That's the game you made? That was the general consensus attitude and posture of the public, was that, why'd you make that game? Roll Your D gifts a member and says, paying it forward. Thank you very much for paying it forward. It's very kind. With this many gifted memberships in a day, plenty of folks could pay it forward and get somebody else in the door. I know a PlayStation exclusive that wouldn't have taken 8 years to make, wouldn't have cost an absurd amount of money to develop, and would have been a gigantic success. Bloodborne Remastered. They're not wrong. They could get the players if they built the PvE that the Overwatch never got, right? If they do launch again, will they include Xbox? No. To try to boost the player base? No. The last thing that game needs is a developer building another version of the game right now. That's not what they need to be doing. No. That wouldn't change anything. That game doesn't need a broader audience. It doesn't need free to play. It doesn't need to land on Xbox. It needs to be a game that people want to play. And Delta Boss secures it with another 20 bomb. This guy all of a sudden comes in and wants to be the champion of the gifted members. Unbelievable. 95 gifted members today from Delta Boss alone. You bought Concord through CD keys? That's unfortunate. That's unfortunate. And a single from Snacks and Naps Gaming. What a name. Thank you so much. If you guys got a gifted membership, you're like, why did I get a gifted membership? You either watch enough or you've been here enough to get one. Enjoy the extra content. We do morning coffee every morning. We do morning coffee every morning. We do the writer's room in the afternoon. We do a Friday night stream with my wife. You guys get access to all that. And Delta Boss gifts another 5 members. If you guys want to help us with something we're calling a milestone, okay? This is a weekly goal to keep things going, right? You guys keep this channel going, and we say thank you with content. We're like, hey, you're gifting, you're growing the community. Here's extra content. Here's morning coffee. Here's writer's room. Here's a Friday night stream with my wife. Here's a community game night, right? Here's stretch goals. That's what all that's designed to do. We have milestones, which are separate. And what we're trying to do right now is get 600 people at Member Plus and above, and then I do content for that group. I did an IRL stream on the weekend. People want me to play the Date Everything dating simulator on Steam. I'll do another IRL stream. We just hung out in the backyard. It was a blast. So consider upgrading to Member Plus. It's $6 instead of $5. It helps us. It makes room in the gifted pool. It gets you out. You're basically giving up your seat to somebody else to get into that gifted pool and enjoy that extra content. We also have a very active members-only Discord. They do town halls and hangouts and gaming sessions all of the time. This tweet didn't age well, and it was from today. We'll be conducting routine maintenance later today. Yeah. Give the devs factions too. I mean, I know where your head's at. You're basically like, well, Naughty Dog didn't want to turn into a live service studio, then hand The Last of Us Online to these guys. I don't think you would be able to do that. That would be a disaster. To suddenly hand another piece of property with a completely different outlook. No. This Discord's got more people than Concord. Oof. All right, let me gift the 50 that I owe you guys. We got to get out of here. I owe you 50 for tomorrow, too. I'll do the other 50 tomorrow. If I do them both in one day, they lock my account up and won't let me purchase. There's the 50 that I owe you. And then we're going to go to Writer's Room. We're going to get out of here. Writer's Room is where we plan and sketch out the next day. Thank you guys for a massive amount of support today. And if you haven't checked out the Concord Flopped upload, be sure to check it out. Why did it flop? Okay? Check out that video. Make sure anytime you watch my uploads, you smack like, you leave a comment. You might get featured in a video. Thanking everybody who's been doing that. A lot of you will not be able to come to the members-only content that we're about to do. A great thing to do for the channel is to go check out the upload from this morning if you can't come with us. And remind me tomorrow that I owe you guys a 50 bomb for hitting the gauntlets today. I'm going to wait for my member bomb to stop, and then I'll spam a link in chat, and we will get the heck out of here. It's taking a while. It's still taking a while. what is that? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 25. We should be nearing the end. All right, there's the link to where we're headed. Thanks so much for being a member to this channel, and you may have gotten a gifted member today. Everybody went crazy. We took a day off for the holiday, came back swinging. I dropped the 50 bomb. I owe you another 50 bomb for tomorrow for hitting 2 gauntlets that I threw down today. Massive amount of generosity from Delta Boss 429 as well as MASH and everybody else. So thank you guys so much for doing that. Be sure to check out my upload about Concord. And right now we are at 533 people at Member Plus and above. Keep upgrading. Either pick Member Plus or VIP and you'll get that total higher. We'll celebrate with the dating simulator game and like an IRL stream. I'm going to end the previous stream and redirect people over. We were talking about Concord flopping, and buddy, did we time that coverage correct, because they dropped an absolute bomb today.